Hey there, comic friends. I'm Travis, and it's the Comic Book Roundtable. And I'm still a little under the weather, so maybe I'm not as loud and rambunctious as normal, but maybe that's a good thing. I have with me today Damien again. How's it going, sir?
It is good. I'm trying to announce this on Twitter at the same time. Sorry for my distraction.
No, that's okay.
Great to be with you. I'm glad that you somehow survived and are able to continue the show.
Yes, at the last moment. Yes, at the last moment, right before I would have started getting ready to do this and whatnot, I had a work emergency that took way longer than it was supposed to. So 2 hours later than about when I would normally start it. But hey, whatever. It's all good. We're going to enjoy talking comics, and that's the reason we're doing it. So
I'm excited. I have a lot of comics this week. So that's one reason why I asked you if you were doing it this week, because I thought I'd have some stuff to talk about.
Right on. Okay, well, we're gonna do the typical. We're gonna start out by talking Marvel books right off the bat. What Marvel book you want to talk first?
Well, the one that I read that I know you read is Conan #3.
Mm-hmm.
With an awesome cover, as usual.
Yes, the covers
almost make it worth the price by themselves. Almost. So this episode just centers around them trying to kill Conan for being a thief, hanging him, and fate intercepts and allows him to not die. Not really his own machismo or anything.
Right. I mean, he tries to be all braggadocious the whole way through, but
this brings me back to my feeling of it being like Aaron's indie comic, the Goddamned. It had very much a Goddamned vibe of just everyone and everything being kind of horrible and the world looking like a wasteland to me.
Except I feel like the Goddamned actually had a plot that was taking me someplace.
Right.
I mean, this is. I mean, other than the stuff at the very end with the with the kids and the mom, and they're gonna take his blood after he's, all extra tough guy, has survived death a whole bunch and whatnot.
Well, you can see he has an overarching theme, something about what is it about a hero that can survive death, or at least he's playing on that idea. It's the ridiculousness of even an incredibly good soldier, fighter, thief surviving so many of these death-defying adventures.
Right.
And so he might be going somewhere with that. But to me, it seems like, I don't know, there's just a lot of easy fixes and things, such as lightning strikes, and so he's saved from being hung.
Right.
Or the branch breaks. And for some reason, they decide not to just shove a sword into him at the point when the branch breaks. They decide to try to kill him again later.
Right. Yeah, no, there's not enough here for me. I'm done. When I order my comics this weekend, I won't be ordering this. I mean, I am some small piece of me is curious about, when we get to the point, but I'm assuming there's really not going to be anything to that. When we get to the point where they're going to sacrifice him and take his blood, he's going to do some death-defying whatever and survive it, right?
Right.
It's just going to be,
of course.
But
calling it the death of Conan, but it's obvious.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be the death of Conan.
And I enjoy the idea of each issue largely being self-contained, except for that little bit at the end. It's just telling an adventure that he went on, but it's not a very satisfying adventure for me. It's just not, there's not enough there for me to go, oh, that was a fun one shot. Whereas, what was it? We just, a couple of weeks ago, we read Justice League Dark.
Yeah.
And there were like 3 stories in one comic. And each one of those little short stories felt more satisfying than 20 pages of this feels.
Right. Well, I would say there that, I mean, the big difference there to me is Tynion in Justice League Dark is invested in his world and his stories. And he puts, even when they're not perfect, he's putting so much effort into it that I really appreciate it. I don't feel like Jason Aaron is investing that much effort into all of this.
Yeah.
But I'm sticking with it for now. I mean, I guess Conan is as to me as to Green Arrow is for you. So it has to get very bad before I kind of drift off.
Well, I'll get to listen to you talk about it then to hear what maybe I missed. I do dearly love these covers. The covers are really exciting, really dynamic, and make me excited for the book. And then I open up, and I'm not saying that the art inside is bad either. It's just the story in itself. There's just not enough there to really.
I don't love the art inside, but I realize he's a good artist, but maybe not to my taste, at least for Conan. Yeah. But yeah, just even the mood that the cover evokes, if somehow the story inside captured that, I don't know. There's just so much more going on there on those covers.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I guess I can kind of cheat and time travel here. This week, Savage Sword of Conan came out, and the art was mind-blowingly good by Ron Garney. He must have been waiting years to draw Conan or something, because he put so much work into it. And I can't see where the story is going. It's fine, but it also maybe is not as high effort writing as it could be. But the art was so good that I was actually very excited. I'm very excited to see any more Ron Garney doing.
Cool. Well, that's good to hear that, at least, that that the art captures, what you want it to and whatnot. As a side note to the whole Conan thing, so you have seen the news, I'm assuming, that that Conan is being folded into the Marvel universe.
Oh, that. I assume that they're going to put him in the Marvel universe, but they're not going to talk about it in the regular Conan books.
He's going to be an Avenger,
like a Savage Avengers in the Savage Land. I think I saw that. Yeah.
So does that not mean that they bleed into each other? That his world bleeds into the Marvel universe in a sense?
I'm hoping it's some little adventure he goes off onto, but never gets mentioned in the regular Conan book.
So somehow Spider-Man can bleed into the Savage Lands and then bleed into into the Conan world and vice versa. I mean, I'm assuming that too. I'm assuming they will not drop the Hulk into the middle of the Conan book. But
and they've dropped Conan in What Ifs many times, actually. I believe like 3 times.
But that's What Ifs. That's just,
I know, but it's the curse of Marvel. Everything in a What If eventually comes into the regular Marvel universe.
Okay.
But it seems like a bad idea, because Conan is not a moral character
by any means.
Right. It just doesn't make sense mixing him with superheroes.
No, because I mean, whatever is his self-satisfying thing. I mean, he really is.
Yeah,
amoral. I mean,
and I've really gone off on a Conan binge. So I've been rereading some Robert E. Howard Conan just to check my, and in that he's like a bricklayer when it comes to killing people. It's like, okay, this is something I'm good at, so I'm going to hire myself out and help people out. And when it's my job to kill people, I'll kill people efficiently. There's nothing about him that's really the hero.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that's. I mean, is it Jason Aaron that's going to be writing that? Do you know? I didn't catch that.
That part. I haven't caught. No, I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely not getting it.
No. Oh no.
I'm saying that now.
Oh, I know. I'm not getting it. So either it's a regular thing or it's an event thing, and I'm not interested in that in either sense, I guess. So yes, that's. Thought that was.
It's funny, but kind of Marvel. Well, any comic book company will do anything that might work, but Marvel just seems to really go all in.
Though I guess I could see reading a book that was like Conan and Wolverine teaming up.
Right.
Now see,
which happened in one of the What Ifs. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, did it? Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, I can see that. I mean, who's the more savage, right? I mean, I could.
Right.
I could get behind
Conan
that.
Conan in the Savage Land, then you get Conan fighting dinosaurs. Well, you get that in Conan comics too, but
yeah. But you'd have him fighting something instead of clashing with the Avengers, right? That would be an easy target for all of them to to have. So
yeah, I guess he would be like the Wolverine character, I guess is how they would play him, even though Wolverine does have more of a moral compass than
certainly, but yeah. At any rate.
Oh, and Mike Humple on the comment is saying maybe Conan and Deadpool. I bet that's coming next. If if the Avengers sells, they'll team him up with Deadpool.
Wow. I will give that a hard miss. A hard miss. So yeah.
Those might become collector's items because anything with a licensed character in it, if then Marvel loses the license, they can't reprint them.
Oh, well, I guess there is that. Yeah.
So there's a lot of comics like Rom and Master of Kung Fu that had legal problems that kept them out of print for a long time. Rom, I think, is still out of print.
So somebody actually owns the rights to Conan. It's not like Tarzan or.
It should be, and apparently it is in Europe. Somehow they formed a Conan property group, more than just an estate, and then spun off Red Sonja to a separate company, and maybe even Cull to another company. It's bizarre. I'm not sure how all these things work and how they maintain copyright on these kinds of things. But I guess there are ways if you have lawyers and money.
Huh. Interesting. Because I would have thought that would have been kind of a free rights, Conan would be one of those things that at this point would be kind of a free right, kind of a like Sherlock Holmes or something.
Yeah.
So.
And Robert E. Howard's father sold off the rights, I think, in the 50s or something, or the 40s even, for a few $100s, because he had no idea that the stuff his son did, ever would amount to anything.
Sure.
So it's not like the grandchildren of Robert E. Howard are making money. It's just some group of investors,
right? Whoever bought the property. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Alrighty. Other Marvel books. Did you have to pick this up?
No, I don't know why I'm staying away from Daredevil, but I do stay away from it for some reason. Yeah,
so I like the Daredevil character. So when the new Daredevil comes out and it's somebody that I think is maybe will do something, whatever, I tend to pick it up unless it's somebody I clearly don't care for. So Chip Zdarsky, I've been hearing he's been writing good superhero stuff. I haven't picked up any of that, so I thought, well, Daredevil's a character I like. He's going to be on this. I like Checchetto's art, so I'll jump on and see.
Oh yeah, very good artist.
What it has and what. So I enjoyed it. It's good. It's it's got the kind of dark and grit of I always see Daredevil as being kind of a noir superhero. Anyway, that's kind of his his thing. They do a very good job of that. So I haven't been keeping up on his world. So he was near dead or something like that, I guess. And it's just,
I vaguely feel they had a Death of Daredevil thing going on at some point.
Yeah. And the end of Souls run. So he's recovered from that. He's basically just out of the hospital. He's not 100%, but he's trying to get back to what he was. Fisk is mayor of New York, and Fisk is basically outlawed superheroes again. So all the cops are out to arrest anybody who's in a costume. There's some detective who's shown up who might be a righteous detective, but the law says that these costume vigilantes need to be gotten, so he's going after them. So clearly this guy's going to be a law enforcement nemesis to Daredevil that they introduced in this. But he's not 100%. So he gets into some fights and about gets beat up by bank robbers, basically. People that normally he would beat up without any problems. He has some sisters. I have watched the final season of Daredevil on Netflix, and some aspects of it feel kind of like that, and maybe that's just pure coincidence, but they feel like kind of the same sort of thing. But nothing new. I mean, there's not some special something so far in this first issue of the run. There's nothing unique about it. It's a Daredevil. He's recovering from being in some dark hole, and he's working his way out of that dark hole. Is, so it's not like
seen happen over and over again.
Oh, right. That's what I'm saying is it's not treading any new territory. I'll even say this: when I started on the Charles Soule run, which I didn't continue with, but I don't know, I read 10 issues of it or so. They had him doing completely different stuff. He was becoming a district attorney. He was working for the prosecution. So they were venturing into different things because, of course, he's always the defense lawyer kind of a deal.
Right. He was going into being a prosecutor and all that.
Right.
I read about 10 of those issues also.
Right. So it was at least trying to explore possibly something different with the character. This is not. I mean, it's good. It's decent Daredevil, but it's not thing groundbreaking or whatever. I'll hang around for a few issues just to kind of see what might be here, if there is something that's going to be coming and whatnot. Because I do enjoy the Daredevil character. So
yeah, I think Charles Soule seemed interesting, but somehow I lost interest in his run. I think it's very hard to top some of the stuff that already has been done on Daredevil in the noir sense.
Right.
Which is why Mark Waid went off in a different direction.
Yeah. Right. For he made more of the swashbuckler adventure kind of a character.
And Daredevil became very popular again for a while.
Right. Right. So, I mean, like I said, the art is really good in it. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it. It does some decent flashback kind of stuff, to reattach him to the Catholic Church and, why he kind of operates the way that he operates and that sort of thing. Yeah, like I said, I'll hang around for a few issues just to kind of see what's
right,
what's going on with it. But like I said, if you like Daredevil, I think it's a decent Daredevil book, but it's not groundbreaking by any sense of the measure. So
I heard an interview with Zdarsky, and he said he was tired of doing comics that were the number 2 tier comic in a franchise, like Fantastic Four. He was doing Marvel 2-in-1, and he was doing some Spider-Man book that wasn't the main Spider-Man book. And so that he chose Daredevil because Daredevil just has one book and that's the main thing.
Right.
So that gave me hope that he had something he wanted to do with Daredevil. You know what I'm saying? If you want the main book.
Right.
But,
well, anyway. And maybe he will. I mean, he's, like I said, some of it is the same. It's him kind of, pulling himself out of whatever, whole dark place that he's been in to kind of rebuild his life and whatnot. He's has a one-night fling, which is kind of interesting. I mean, that was a different sort of a thing. And he uses that for them to kind of reference, Foggy and how Foggy would be and how he's different from Foggy and, and some of that stuff. So like I said, I am curious. I see that Jacquio is saying that he liked the Cheetah art, but he won't be buying issue 2. So clearly it didn't impress him. So, like I said, nothing groundbreaking in it, but it was a decent.
I think Jack buys a lot of Marvel, if I'm not mistaken. So that says something that he's not sticking with it.
Yeah. So what else you got Marvel-wise?
Well, of interest to you might be Gunhawks.
Yes.
I had no idea that David Lapham was doing anything for Marvel, but it's a one-shot written by Lapham and David Lapham and Maria Lapham, or Marie Lapham.
Yeah.
Maria. And I had never, apparently Gunhawks was a brief Western at Marvel, but who Gunhawks are, after reading this, I don't know, because there was just one character. But it was an interesting concept. It actually, the West was already won. It takes place probably in 1920 or something. Although I don't think the artist totally cued in on that fact, because there's no sign of technology from 1920. But I double checked, and because it talks about the Mexican Revolutionary War, and it talks about Arizona becoming a state. And Arizona Arizona's already a state, and it's 1912. That was 1912.
Okay.
And the Mexican Revolution ended in 1920.
Right.
So I figure that this happens after 1920. Anyway, the hero is someone who was a hired gun during the Mexican Revolution, and a group of women survivors of a village that he helped slaughter have come to get their revenge on him.
Oh, wow.
But he has become the hero sheriff of this town, helping to bring law and order and raise money to build schoolhouses and churches and stuff. So in one issue, they try to give this turning point where he realizes everything he's been building up is going to be destroyed by these vengeful Mexican men and women, I guess, but they emphasize the women. And so finally I'm going to spoil it if that's okay. I'm warning everybody. He gives the book ends with him just giving himself over to these people who do have a reason for righteous revenge upon him. to save the town that he helped build up, and then that's the end of the story. So it potentially is a very interesting story about, you know, what the West was built upon, and moral choices you have to make, and redemption that does not come cheaply. But the art was really bad.
Oh, bummer.
It doesn't look bad when you glance at it, but it just did not aid the story very well. And so I can't tell, maybe they wrote it perfectly well, or maybe it was too much story to get into one issue anyway. But because of the artist, I was like unclear. I was spending so much time just trying to figure out who was who and where was what and all of that it was hard to, the story only sounds good when I repeat it after the fact. Like I just,
right. Mm.
So it's an interesting failed experiment, I suppose. And I don't know, you know, the art doesn't look terrible or anything, but it just feels like there was a big disconnect between the art and the script.
Hmm.
And like I said, there was no sense of being in 1920 from the art. It could have been, you know, 1870 or something.
Right. And this is one of those just kind of one shots that Marvel's doing right now, where they're just producing these single issue of odd properties.
Which I mean, I attribute that to C.B. Cebulski, because it seems to have started under his watch. And I find it an interesting thing to do.
Sure.
For someone who has nostalgia for old Marvel like I do.
Right.
Although I did not know about this particular thing.
No, I mean, until I saw it crop up and whatnot, I had no idea Gunhawks was a thing.
I don't know on the internet feed how even the cover is kind of just not very clear what's going on. Because the funny thing is, my comic shop owner told me, oh, there's a new Jonah Hex book out. So he just saw this cover and saw this kind of face and shadows and thought it was Jonah Hex.
Right.
And I was all excited. Oh, Jonah Hex. But
that's what I've been too.
And I wasn't going to get it, but then I saw the Laphams and I thought I'd try it.
Right.
What other Marvels are on your stack?
My only other Marvel I picked up was the Immortal Hulk issue number 13, which ends this whole Green Door in Hell arc of the story. And as much as I love this book. I mean, I love the look of it. I love the art. When this is done, I kind of like, oh, this is cool, but so it's how it ends. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, there's this kind of father, it's like a version of his dad that he's kind of battling in this hellscape. And he gets some help from Absorbing Man. Absorbing Man helps him out ultimately to defeat his dad, which is this, I don't know, this entity from this sliver of this green gamma world, that this door gets opened up if you release enough gamma stuff in any one place. And so, of course, the place where the most gamma was released at was where he was created at, where the Hulk was created at. But it resolves the stuff, but it's like, okay, I'm not sure I understand what the point is. I mean, they did a lot of, in these issues, they did a lot of heaven and hell. In this issue, they spend a certain amount of time on panels where it's just, scripture is not the right word for it, but it's largely, it's kind of exploring, what is evil, or what is the base evil, who judges what's evil and not evil, and that sort of stuff. It's very kind of high and mighty sounding. And I'm like, okay, so, we get to the end of it and I guess we have a resolution as to what was evil or not. I mean, they defeat it and they come out. I mean, at one point before they step out of hell, the Hulk and Banner are separated. And he's like, look, we can't, we're going to have to step back through this door and go back to the real world. But we can't do it if we step through as two separate people, we're potentially both going to be dead. So that isn't going to work. So, we need to get back together. And Banner's like, no, forget it. I'd rather just be dead. I'd rather not. Thank you. Especially with the way the Hulk is right now. And the Hulk is like, look, I'm only the way I am is because I care about you. And I've always been here. And I'm what helps you survive, your dad and everything else, basically. So they you know, they basically have a resolution. He ends up being kind of a softie, you know, by the end of it, the Hulk is kind of like, you know, look, you know, I love you, bro. Basically, it's kind of it's kind of how it ends, and then they end up going back. You know, they traumatically are pushed back together again, and then they're back in the real world, but nobody knows where Banner's at. And at the end of it, he is calling. Is it Betty? I think it's Betty. Yeah, it's Betty. He calls Betty, and that's who he's going back to. I mean,
the Hulk calls Betty, or the Banner calls Betty.
Banner calls Betty. Yeah, because he's kind of lost. There's still people hunting him. There's still like some government or something else that's secretly chasing him down. It's trying to catch him. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the art continues to just be, you know, just nuts, and I really like it. I enjoy it quite a bit.
How many issues was spent on this Hell storyline?
I want to say 4. Really, of him actually stepping into the hellscape. Earlier on, this government agency that's trying to track him or catch him and whatnot had caught him. There was an issue that had the Avengers briefly, and the Avengers basically dump on him. They managed to take him out, you know, and capture him, and they unwittingly give him to this secret agency that wants to kind of like chop him up and do experiments on him, that he then breaks out of, you know, kind of a deal. So they're still tracking him. The Alpha Flight people are, you know, are wrecked, but are putting themselves back together again. The Alpha Flight people have offered a job to Absorbing Man. And
hey, John's here. Hi.
Hey, John. So yeah. So I mean, like I said, I still really enjoy the book. I enjoyed this issue. I enjoyed the art. I will say, if I'm being, you know, really critical of the book, it's like I don't know if there was a resolution at the end of it. What did all that mean? That whole kind of
right.
What's evil, and they go off on this whole kind of these entities and these, you know, names that I'm not 100% sure about and whatnot. But like I said, as a whole, I still like the book.
I mean, the reason I asked you how long it had been is because I've only read the first 3 issues as they come out digitally on Marvel Unlimited.
Right.
And also from hearing people talk about it, at first it was a lot of short stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if his skill at doing stories isn't as good when he goes longer, if too much weight was put on this story to have too much meaning or something.
Well, and that I mean, that could be, because when it's the short stories, like those first issues where it's like almost a one and done, you aren't pondering the grand. At least I wasn't, as I was reading. Right. I wasn't pondering the grand scheme of it. And this has given us more time where it's dwelled on this whole subject of who he is and the meaning of evil or not evil and right. that stuff, that it hung around on that long enough that, of course, gave me more time to contemplate the issues. You're right. And so that, I don't know that he's not a better storyteller. I just don't know that the subject that I don't know, there wasn't a resolution to whatever it was. And maybe there's more to this. Maybe what I thought was a resolution to them getting out of this place, maybe that's not really totally the resolution.
It's still going to pay off, that there's still a story to come.
Right. Right.
It's just that shorter stories have different kinds of payoffs than longer stories, at least from a reader's point of view, what they should have. So if someone is really great at one and dones or, you know, two and done kind of stories, they may not be as good at the longer form, or they may, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking over the comments, and I'm looking at
it's a little hard to track everyone's comments.
Right. So I'm looking at Jackios. It says, you don't say so when at the end of a Batgirl arc ends. And come on, you're right. So I think he's criticizing me that I'm being hard on the Hulk, and you're 100% right. And I'm being hard on the Hulk because the Hulk has been so good,
right? Really
good. Like seriously, this would be in probably, if not top 5, at least top 10 comics that I read last year, and that's saying a lot for somebody who does not care about the Hulk. I really, really like the book. So when I don't have a high expectation for Batgirl. So when I read it and there's not a whole lot there, there's not a whole lot there. And I will be the first to admit that there isn't.
Right.
Because it's not set a standard. To me, this book is set a standard. So when it I'm just having a conversation that's dipping off. I'm not saying it's not a good book. I still really enjoyed it, had a lot of fun with it. And I'm just saying that, wow, it wasn't like
it sounds like it promised to deliver something it didn't quite deliver.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of these moral questions, which, you know, you raise big themes that makes you set yourself a more difficult story to tell.
Right. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited by that. I was excited by this question of the stuff, because clearly the Hulk part of this is not nice. He is evil. He's a monster. I mean, he's this really smart, very, very cold, seemingly, I mean, you know, somebody, you know, accosts somebody, you know, at a restaurant, and when they come outside, he tears them in half. I mean, he's scary, you know, kind of a thing. So when they start exploring this, you know, root evil, you know, kind of original sin sort of stuff or whatever. Okay, cool. Where are we going with that? And I don't know. I mean, you know, Jack, do you think that they answered that at the end of it? I don't know that they answered something by the end of it. That's all I'm asking. Is I don't know if they did. So,
well, and the comic book commenter had problems with this arc too. I'm looking back. He said he was so glad the Green Door thing is done. He thinks he'll drop it when it comes up again. And then later he said, this Hulk arc just didn't make any sense, at least to me, the giant creature, Hulk's dad. Either that or I'm just missing it. He said.
Right. And I think the type of commenter had, if I'm remembering correctly, had dropped the book briefly. And then, of course, I was still talking it up. So he came back to it, possibly. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's stuff in it there's stuff in it that's confusing because it doesn't have for me, it's confusing because I don't know that it had a resolution at the end of it. That's why I'm questioning. Like I said, I still really like the book. I mean, it's still one of my favorite reads. It's one of the first things I pick up and read and it still will be.
It's the one I wish I was picking up. And it's like, do I start getting hard copies now? You know, or do I just keep following it digitally? Because if I start up now, I might be able to get a few issues back, but I'll have missed something and have to catch up later.
Right.
I can't decide.
Yeah.
If it's all going downhill starting now, then I guess.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I mean,
no, I know that's not what you're saying, but
right. I definitely don't feel that. Like I said there, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. It built an expectation of something, and I don't know that I was told what that was.
Right.
So for better or for worse. So as far as that goes. And that is my Marvel books.
Well, in terms of almost no expectations, I've been continuing to get Colin Bunn's As Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of fun. It's totally light fluff. I can easily forget what happened the previous issue. So I've actually been doing the digital downloads on them. And when the new issue comes out, I just quickly flick through the digital version of the last issue to catch myself back up. Not that anything important's happened, but it's just a lot of plot stuff. But he very cleverly makes this group of Asgardian related characters very much like the movie Guardians of the Galaxy. And so I suddenly realized, the Thor frog is Groot.
Oh.
He croaks and everyone understands what he's saying.
Of course.
And so there's one character who was just human, but now got a Nova helmet. And she says, suddenly I can understand what Throg is saying. But we the readers still can't understand.
Right.
And another interesting thing, because I was listening to your buddy Longbox review, his previews, where he goes over the previews, and they were he and George were talking about they're releasing a complete Planet Terry, the old Star Comics character, which I've never read, but Planet Terry shows up in this issue as an adult.
Nice.
There he is. I wonder if they just said, well, we're releasing the complete Planet Terry in a reprint, so why don't you stick him in this comic? So he did.
Right.
I don't know. It also has very much a Star Wars kind of feel to it. So it's just light fun. And I always get a little extra thrill when it involves Asgardians. So I'm sticking with it.
Cool.
The only other interesting thing to note is when I do read the digital versions, the colors look amazing. And the colors are good in here, but I just don't really notice it, how good they are. They look a little garish on the page, but then in the digital version, I see that the colorist has put so many different layers of detail in the color. It's pretty cool. It seems almost, I don't, maybe you can see some of that there. It seems almost a waste how much work the colorist puts into it, in the sense of most people aren't going to look at all of what he's doing.
Right.
But maybe he's thinking mostly in terms of, I call him a he, but I don't even know the sex of the colorist.
Yeah.
The colorist, oh yeah, it's a he, Federico Blee.
Yeah, it does make you wonder if they're taking both into consideration, or do they have to change? Because I don't know enough about digital coloring to know. Do they have to change something when they go from what's in print versus what they're throwing up on, on the screen? I mean, I do know occasionally, when I follow people on Twitter, someone will post a cover, and then some of the colorists that I follow will groan and repost the cover with using the right whatever that they think is right to actually make the colors show the way they're supposed to be.
Right.
Supposed to be colored. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been having conversations with the colorist. I'll have to ask him about that. And he's talked about looking at some coloring and saying they didn't do the trapping right.
Right.
I'm not quite sure what that is, but that might be one of the issues.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably, it'd be interesting if colorists do adjust things slightly, or if they do strategies where, well, it's going to look this way in print, that will look okay, and it will look this way digitally. And sometimes I've experienced some stuff where clearly the colorist was not thinking about print.
Wow.
I noticed that a lot on West Coast Avengers.
Oh yeah.
Excuse me. It just looked a lot better. I mean, I know it's not terrible on the page, but you could really see what the colorist was doing once you got to the digital there.
Okay.
But anyway, that's my all my Marvel. It is kind of exciting. For some reason, I've always wanted to like some Colin Bunn for one of the big two, because I like him as an indie writer. So this is the first Colin Bunn Marvel book that I've been enjoying.
Good. I guess I didn't actually realize that he was still writing any of the big two.
Yeah, he seems to. This may be the only one he's writing at the big two at the moment. He seems to be all over the indie presses right now. I haven't read it yet, but he's doing an Archie book.
Oh, really?
That's about Cheryl Blossom and her brother, and one of them is the Antichrist, but they're not sure which.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's called Blossom 666.
Of course.
So I'm looking forward to it when I get around to actually reading it.
Sure. Interesting. Alrighty.
So on to DC.
Yeah, I don't know of any other Marvel news.
As
I say, I don't know of any other Marvel news besides the Conan thing, and they're starting to really ramp up this whole War of the Realms. I've been seeing a lot of announcements. There's like tons of one shots that are coming out of that War of the Realms. I have no idea what the War of the Realms is. I mean, is it basically the equivalent of the Crisis? I mean, is it a multiverse kind of thing? I mean,
I don't know either. I feel like it involves Malekith, and I'm a bit tired of Malekith. But I don't know. It does have a good set of creators on the main book, but I still will.
Yeah, and for me, it's purely just I'm not stepping into event books. I don't care what company they're coming from. I'm still back to being really annoyed by them, and what little bit some of the event type stuff is messing with my DC books is irritating me enough to.
This one has a banner at the top saying that the War of the Realms is coming. So I think this will be involved in the War of the Realms. So I probably won't understand an issue or two.
There you go. Gregory's telling us what color trapping is. That color trapping is an action of making sure that color is registered correctly. In comics, it is making sure that the color is encompassed by the line art without the white gaps around it. So,
Yeah, and the fellow I was talking about said also there's if you don't do it right, the color can go on top of the black and look odd.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you got a lot of black in the picture. So I think there's levels to it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. All righty. Well, let's roll on to some DC books. What do you want to talk DC wise?
Well, did you get Man and Superman?
I did not get that.
Ah.
How is it? Is it
well,
worth
you're not
the
a
money?
big Superman fan.
No, I'm not.
So to all my fellow big Superman fans, this is one of the best Superman books I've read in quite a while.
Oh, really? Okay.
But it's definitely for the Superman fans. It's not like some non-Superman-ish kind of take on Superman. It's very at the core of Superman as the decent guy trying to do right. But in his first month or two in Metropolis, before he can work up the nerve to actually wear his Superman suit. And it was actually written in like 2006 by Marv Wolfman.
Right.
And because of a book getting canceled, I guess there was something called Superman Confidential that maybe published short stories short runs by different people. So this was a 4-issue run. And it has amazing art by this artist that I'd never heard of before, Claudio Castellini, and wonderful coloring. In all my being critical of coloring these days, I really like this. So yeah, it just, obviously with Superman, we keep getting slightly different versions of the story, but it gives you a very convincing story of how Superman got his start, how his relationship with Lois started, how his relationship with Lex Luthor started, how he managed to break in as a reporter at the Planet, even though that's like getting your first job at the New York Times or something.
Right.
And so overall, it's very effective on all those things. So most of the comic, he is not wearing the Superman outfit. He's flying around with a stocking pulled over his face.
Nice.
Yeah, so I just, to Superman fans, I hardly recommend it.
Cool.
It was $10. I guess, if they put it out in a nice hardback, I'd get it in another version, but this will be cheaper than a paperback trade later.
Right.
It's 4 issues. So it's, 88 pages of actual story.
So Marv Wolfman can write a Superman story.
Marv Wolf, and he still had it in 2006. I mean, I was very impressed. Yeah. It is denser than your average story from 2006, but it's not written in this 1970s Marv Wolfman or 1980s Marv Wolfman style either.
But still, 2006 is a long time ago. I mean, in comic book terms. I mean, that's
right. And I think he started it in 2006, and maybe they finished the whole project in 2008. So it's and maybe part of the problem is that they took too long to finish it, and then the book it was supposed to be in got canceled. I don't know.
Could be.
So and I do. If there were a nice hardback, there is kind of a gutter loss issue, which is always a problem with with these square bound comics.
Any
standouts for you on DC this week?
Standouts?
Or maybe you don't want to start with your best one.
No, DC this week was not great for me, to be honest. So
okay,
so it was talking eventish type things. So this is Batman 64. This is The Price Part 1.
And this is Joshua Williamson instead of
yes, and I have lots of Twitter friends who just thought this was great. Thinks Williamson's awesome, and I don't. This just gives me all kinds of Button flashbacks, and I did not like the Button when that was out.
Yes, I recall.
This falls along the same sort of lines. Now, I did kind of enjoy the art in it. The art is Guillaume March. I like him as an artist, so just about anything he does, I enjoy in some sense. I like he just has a style, and I like that, and I like that style. But this takes place. It says that it takes place before the events in Batman 61 through 63. And then that will resume in issue 66. So this is the break we get because King is off writing some secret TV show. So we get a break in my very thickly plotted story, this random shenanigans is in it, and it irritates me first and foremost. That puts me off of it right off the bat. And I did not think it was good. It's kind of just grabbing random things that are just kind of laying around and makes them into something. The beginning of the story, it's got some stuff going on. The frustration over the Heroes in Crisis stuff, the fact that they can't, that the Flash and Batman can't solve the Hero in Crisis thing that's going on currently. So there's some friction between the two of them. So they try to come up with this, let's go on this other thing is happening. Gotham Girl is flying around and wrecking a bunch of stuff. She shows up to the Flash Museum. I didn't realize there was a Flash Museum with giant.
I remember that in the Silver Age comics
with like giant statues and all kinds of other crap. I mean, blimps. I mean, the whole right. This to me was like, what the hell? She shows up there and wrecks a bunch of stuff, and the Flash is irritated with Batman because Batman was the first person to show up. How did he beat the fastest man there? Because he knew about it, but he acts like he doesn't know about it. It's because he's already been tracking Gotham Girl is kind of nuts and is wrecking stuff for some reason. We don't know why, because of course that's the story.
That's the story you're waiting on, you mean?
Right. That's the story that's happening.
You can't give anything away about that.
Well, no. I mean, that's what's happening in this story. At the end of it, she's cackling and trying to resurrect her dead brother Gotham. But the whole beginning of it, the very beginning of this, like I said, the art is great. I mean, it's exciting. But they're fighting Amazos. There's a whole bunch of Amazos. But instead of being Amazos that can be all of the Justice League, each one is a member of the Justice League. So they're fighting them opposite selves, and they're taking bets on who's going to beat up their Amazo self first, which just doesn't sound like the Justice League as a whole. I mean, it's too serious a stuff for them to be.
Do you think the people who were liking it on Twitter were reading it as like a Silver Age story in a sense?
I don't know. It
sounds very, and maybe they're Williamson Flash readers, which I'm not, and maybe
which they are. They are. Some of those people are, and I guess it irritates me the second you have Wonder Woman and she's back talking like not like a normal person. It's the great Hera, and she speaks like she's new to English. That whole thing. And Wonder Woman's been around long enough now that I feel like she should have lost some of that trapping. And so it always throws me off when a writer chooses to take her back to that kind of trapping. Just kind of, I don't know it.
It sort of brand new to man's world or something.
Right. So I'm not digging it at all. I just it irritates me. It's disruptive to what else is going on. I don't think it adds anything to anything, which it's probably not supposed to. I'm sure Williamson came up with this quickly and went, okay, I'm filling in. This is what I'm going to do for these X. I'm not getting the Flash issues that are tied to it. The only reason I got these, to be honest, is because I didn't want a 2-issue break in my current Batman run. So
in modern comics, especially ones like Tom King comics, it takes so much concentration. It's just so weird to have a filler issues.
Yeah. Well, like I said, because the King stuff is so insular. It feels so contained in its own thing. I mean, even when something random is happening, like the Booster Gold stuff that was in prior to the wedding issues, which felt at the time very like just kind of weird to be telling that story. In the greater scheme of things, that makes a certain amount of sense. This won't. I mean, this there's no way this is going to, that it's going to somehow make sense unless King goes and takes some of this and then works it into whatever he's doing. I don't know.
Yeah. I see Luke Gotham Central is saying that there's a Flash museum in the future in Flash's book.
Oh, okay.
But he says that threw him off since the story's in the present day.
Yeah, so. It is. Yeah, it's actually it's actually set in the past a little bit because it's before what's actually happening right now in the book. So
a Flash museum in the future makes a little more sense.
Yeah, way in the future.
In the present.
Way in the future, it would, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems strange to have a museum for yourself.
Right.
As you're still making history for the
in the Silver Age, there was a Batman museum, there was a Flash museum, there was a Superman museum, there was a Legion of Superheroes museum. Everybody had a museum, you know, because everybody loves superheroes in our world, and they just all want to go celebrate them all the time.
Right, which to me that's crazy because you know where the supervillains are going to attack at, right?
Right.
I mean, let's strike their museum. So, yeah. Anyway, I will quickly hopefully forget this and go back to
Is there one more Batman issue in this?
Yes. Yes, there's one more Batman and one more Flash issue. Like I said, I'm not getting the Flash issue, so I've got one more another week that's gonna get messed up.
Do you think you'll read it, or do you think you'll just flip through it and set it aside?
I will flip through it and set it aside, unless it comes on a light week. If it comes on a light week, I will actually maybe actually look at it, but I won't know
light in comics and light in your work life, perhaps.
Right. So no, it's not a big whatever. So yeah, as a whole, it's a rough week for me for DC Comics. This continues to be forgettable.
I didn't realize you were getting Suicide Squad. Or
so this is the Black Files. This is a mini series.
Oh, it's a mini series. I didn't even know that was out.
Right. I have been getting these as they've been coming out. Up until the Black Files one, until this one, I have enjoyed. I've enjoyed Barr's continuing to write Katana. You know, he's one of the creators. He's one of the co-creators of Katana from back at, Batman the Outsiders.
Oh, it's Mike W. Barr from the old days?
Yeah. Oh. And up until about this, he has felt modern enough to not to be an issue, because some of these guys that wrote back then, they don't translate into what a modern comic is like. Right. It hasn't been bad, but this 4 issues have not been good, not been enjoyable at all. And it's been just a continuation of the story, so I don't know why it's falling apart now. The backup story is kind of okay, and the reason I say it's kind of okay because it has to do with a bunch of magic villains. And of course, I love the magic universe of the DC world. So when it has to do with their stuff, I like all of that. But this has not been good. This was painful to read pretty much all the way through at this point. So 2 more issues, which I will just get because it's just 2 more issues. So
I guess I must have heard about that a while before it came out, and I never was a fan of Barr, so I wasn't tempted.
Sure.
But I found some of the Len Wein stuff painful to read in his later days.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got any other DC books you want to talk about?
I do. Did you get Young Justice?
I did not. I have not been picking that up, and I'm kind of regretting it just because I missed the Gleason art.
The Gleason art is nice. It's only half Gleason art here. The other half's Lupacino, who's a good artist too, actually. I wish they said which pages were which. It takes a little bit of concentration to figure that out. But Bendis is already on issue 2, sort of drifting off into too many directions. So I liked issue 1. I didn't dislike this issue, but since I'm reading these out loud with my daughter, she lost interest in the middle. She was like, okay, where's the story? This is not
right.
And so I just had to read the rest of it by myself. So we have a little bit of stuff going on in Amethyst's world of Gemworld, which now looks more like Apocalypse. It's very dark and gloomy rather than bright and gemmy.
That's a bummer. I mean, is that part of the story that it's that way? I mean, what?
Yeah, I think it is.
The Opals have taken over or something?
I think it is. It's become a desolate wasteland. But Dark Opal is blaming this on all the crises in the DC universe, somehow doing something to them, at least in the first issue. So we get a bit of that. Like the team that we had fighting together in the first issue has now somehow been separated. Plus, we're getting flashbacks, I guess. So it's just kind of confusing. Like, we only get the Cassie version of Wonder Girl, I think, in the past. I'm not even sure. And a bulk of the issue is her having a long conversation with Zeus, who wants to bring her back in the fold as his daughter all of a sudden. And she rejects him. And we're not really given her. I mean, she just says, oh, I want to choose my own path. But I don't know enough about the backstory of Cassie, I guess, to care about her relationship with Zeus.
Which is problematic for a book that's supposed to be geared for kids kind of your daughter's age, right?
I know. And does Bendis think it's geared for them? I'm not sure, because of this like dark gem world. It's not like it's something my daughter can't deal with. It's just less fun for her that it's not, the gem world that we're familiar with.
Right.
And it is rated teen plus.
Oh,
now their ratings often are meaningless, but a lot of their comics are just rated teen.
And
there was nothing in here that I had a problem reading to my daughter. It's just it just didn't interest her after a while. It still could pull together, but it's definitely for the type of person who is willing to wait 10 issues for it all to come together.
So how much of it do you think is, they have something that they, stories they want to tell, and how much of it is nostalgia based for all the people who like these kids and are just picking it up for the kids?
I can't say. Because, well, for one, I never watched the TV show Young Justice. So for me, it's kind of
I did, but half those characters that's on that book there were not in the show. So
so I don't think it's clear what the intention is. I would guess, especially once you say that these, and I'm pretty sure like Teen Lantern did not exist, and I'm guessing Jenny Hex was not a member of Young Justice before. And I don't know if Amethyst was. And Amethyst is the big draw for my daughter. She loves the idea of Amethyst, Princess of Gem World.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Because that whole idea of people getting powers from gems is particularly appealing to young kids. I'm having fun with it, so I'll keep reading it for a while. But it does, Bendis lost me on Superman, and he'll probably eventually lose.
And that's what they're saying in the comments too. That's what Stay Puft 1983 is saying, that's the problem, that he feels that they feel that's the problem with Bendis, and that's why they haven't bought Superman when it started, because they knew that's kind of what they were gonna what they were gonna get. So I'm leery of Bendis as a general rule too. So I kind of tend to
I think he can do well, but he also seems like he can lose interest, like start these complicated storylines and then lose interest in them, which makes me very nervous.
Yeah. So Jockio is saying that he refuses to believe that Jonah Hex or Lobo have kids, and I'm thinking Jonah Hex point. And I'm thinking Jonah Hex could have a lot of kids.
He might have a lot of kids, but and this girl is like his great granddaughter or something.
Right.
So why her being related to Jonah Hex makes her like a super gunfighter?
Yeah, you gotta remember Jonah Hex went clear into the future, right, and whatnot.
Oh well, there's that too.
So you got all kinds of stuff going on with that. So
if they played with that would be fun,
right?
Although those are infamously bad comics. But
you're right. Oh yeah. Definitely. Is she a bounty hunter? Is this version of? She's
they haven't even explained. She just arrived. She's like a gal from Texas with a gun in her car, and she arrives in Texas, in Metropolis, and the police stop her.
She's just a normal American kid then.
Well, apparently she's really good with a gun, but it's a rifle, I think.
Right.
And before the police can arrest her for carrying an open gun in a state where that's not
open carry is okay.
Then I was going to say Apocalypse attacks, but it's actually Gemworld attacks, and she gets caught up in helping fighting the Gemworld, and we haven't really had an explanation of who she is. So I think often I feel like, the author thinks this is really cool in his head, but he hasn't explained it to us yet. Why?
Right.
And it could turn out cool.
Right. Or are we asking for too much?
Maybe, but if we shouldn't be asking for too much, he should make it a little simpler of a story, because my daughter, who won't question why Jenny Hex is a superhero,
right,
would have enjoyed it, but now she doesn't because she can tell it's not going to give her much story pleasure per issue.
Yeah.
Exile State, Justin says, so how many humans have lantern rings now? They've added in Teen Lantern. They've already got like 4 other Earth-based lanterns, I think, currently active.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, are you getting Green Lantern still?
So I did actually fully read this issue. I will be honest. I fully read issue number 1, and I've kind of browsed issue 2 and 3. Because I haven't really been digging it. I actually kind of like this issue.
I couldn't remember what happened in it. You know, when I said, "Oh, I'll go on with you," because I had read this when I first got it 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And so something about the plot is too convoluted or too many pieces. So I reread it, and there's lots of cool bits. But now I can't quite remember what happened in the previous issues. I guess he's out to infiltrate, but not very successfully infiltrate the whatever they're called, Black something.
Right, the Sun Eater or whatever the heck they are, right?
The art is just mind-bogglingly good.
Yes.
Especially for a DC comic.
Yeah, that's the thing is it just to me it just screams like, heavy metal, that sort of a, it's got the elements that would be in a Corbin book. It's got, it just kind of, it samples a lot of that kind of stuff. There's just these strangely meticulous details in places that just make me go, oh wow, that's cool that he spent all that extra time, like this sarcophagus, all the extra time he put in putting little textures, which my camera's not gonna pick up, that you wouldn't need to do that, but adding all that stuff in there just, to me, it's just like,
but that is what you expected from heavy metal or these European artists who do 1 album a year,
right?
It's a monthly comic,
right?
So far, and it's also just kind of amazing how they're pushing the absurdity of the Green Lantern Corps to the extreme. There's a member who's a sun. I don't know if that already existed, but it doesn't usually. I know there's Mogo, a planet, but now there's one that's a sun.
Right.
So it's like we'll just go as extreme as our imaginations can take us, and I kind of like that a lot.
And I think one of the reasons that he can that Lehman Sharp can get away with the art the way that he does is because where some panels or some pages he's throwing all that extra lines, all that extra rich stuff in it, and then there are other lines where other pages where really he's being pretty economical. I mean, there's some of these pages. There's some of these pages where it is, like this. There's not a lot. I mean, that's the heavy lifting of the colorist. The colorist is basically filling in the page.
Yeah, and this page is all the colorist, I suppose.
Right. So I mean, I
good
see
thing he has a good colorist.
Right. So I see how he gets away with doing it, and like I said, the art just tickles me. The whole kind of space cop. I mean, that's really what it is. It's kind of a gumshoe's not what I want to use, but he's kind of
he's almost Dirty Harry or something.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, so like I said, I admit the last 2 issues I kind of browsed. I didn't read them heavily. So he's gotten in trouble for basically being judge, jury, and executioner, or is that just a story? So,
I didn't remember him killing someone in the last issue. I have to go back.
So he's kind of telling this, he's kind of fictitiously, but not fictitiously, tries to make himself look like he's some sort of bad guy to get in the group. And then when he gets exposed, he's basically going, no, really, I do want to be part of you. I'm not really a Green Lantern anymore because I'm a bad guy of the Green Lanterns. I'm the bad guy. I've been exiled by the Green Lanterns. This is kind of how he's spinning it by the end of the story, right? That's how he still wants to get in. So I'm now reinterested. I had basically decided I was dropping it, but by the end of this issue, I'm okay. I'm reinterested. The art really, like I said, really tickled my my fancy this time around. So I don't know.
Now the title, which they only reveal at the end, but it doesn't give away anything to me, is The Cosmic Vampire's Beautiful Daughter.
Yeah.
Who's the Cosmic Vampire? I see who the daughter must be, the Countess that we meet at the end, but
Right.
I guess that might just be because it's a cool title or something.
Sure. Or is that the sun-eating thing, the vampire, because it's going to consume?
Are these? Yeah, they kind of make it sound like these humanoid figures are somehow related,
right?
To somehow related biologically to the Sun Eaters or something.
Yeah, and that's all confusing.
Yeah,
but yeah,
this is going to be one of those things where, you know, after 12 or 24 issues, we'll say, okay, that all made sense in a Grant Morrison kind of way, or Grant Morrison just was going off the rails and we had fun, but it didn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, definitely. That's kind of where I guess it's going to be at. So I'll once again, I'll hang around for a few more issues because, like I said, the art was cool for this one, but I don't know. At the same time, another book that I had kind of written off, and then I truly read the latest issue. And I'm
interesting.
Like, and I'm like, oh man, I kind of like that. That was kind of cool. So Justice League issue number 17.
Is that a Tinian issue?
No, this is back to being fully written by Snyder.
Oh, okay.
The last 3 or 4 issues have been, you know, story by Snyder and the actual words by Tinian, you know, kind of a thing. So this issue finds Martian Manhunter back on Mars. He's there with Lex Luthor. He's asking Lex Luthor to help him with something. And Lex Luthor's like, are you kidding? Why are you asking me? You know, I mean, I've got these artifacts. You know, we're going to tap the source wall and we're raising this entity called Plethora or something like that. And I know what's coming and I'm going to be powerful. And the first time in my life, I have complete direction and know exactly what I want to do. And Martian Manhunter tells him a story about when he was a kid. He remembers now, after having gone to the Thanagarnian vault and learned some stuff, gotten his memories back because he's had some hidden memories, that when he was a child, he was captured as a Martian. He was captured by Earth and was on Earth, and he was a lab experiment. And there was this scientist that was experimenting on him and trying to get DNA from him to do some shape-shifting stuff and whatnot. The scientist had a son. He develops a relationship with his son. The son is really smart too. And they kind of, though the kid is trapped and, you know, though Martian Manhunter is trapped, he's probably never going to escape. They kind of mentally go on these adventures together. They're like best friends because they're both kind of trapped in this thing. Lo and behold, you find out that this kid that he was talking to this whole time that he's trying to find again is actually Lex Luthor. It was Lex Luthor as a kid. His father was Lex Luthor's father was the scientist. The Blackhawks hunted them down and they erased his memories. They erased Dad's memories and they erased Lex Luthor's memories. Well, in the case of Dad always felt like he should have been something great, and he ends up being the kind of drunken alcoholic that is the story of Lex Luthor's father. Well, he's a wrecked man because they took these memories from him and he couldn't, you know, he never adjusted to that.
Right.
So now Lex Luthor is conflicted, thinking he has this direction and knows all this stuff. And now it's kind of been exposed to him that he's had these lost memories. It can't be right, but it sounds right at the same time. So maybe that's a chink in the whole Legion of Doom and the Brainiac 5 and all this stuff that they were going to do. This might be the thing that keeps them from completely erasing this power that's going to go along with the whole force wall threshold thing and destroy the multiverse and whatnot. It was just interesting enough to intrigue me to go, man, maybe I shouldn't have. I liked that idea. So
did you already not order the next?
Yeah. I've dropped it. And that's okay. I mean, it's ultimately probably going to be okay that it didn't, but I was just curious that they threw something out again that are like, that actually, I kind of like that thing. That's interesting. You know, what that means for the character kind of a deal. So, but I just get this itchy feeling because it's Snyder and because of what seemingly how much control he has in the DC universe, that this is just another, it's another event book just on the verge of happening. And I don't want to be anywhere near that. So
good night.
Good night.
See you in the morning.
See you in the morning. And
good night.
You won't see him in the morning.
I will see all of you in the morning. All of you out there are watching this. I'll see you.
That's my my young actress.
Yes.
I am distracted because she left the door open. Pardon me a second.
No
have
problem.
you read Super Sons?
Yes.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
So I have been hanging in there.
Yes.
And I'm thinking now of dropping it, even though we're near past the halfway mark. It's like,
Right.
Why am I spending my time on this?
Exactly.
And yeah.
It's really frustrating because the book, when it was just an ongoing, was so much fun. It was one of my favorite books. I always knew I could pick it up. I'd get a good laugh. I would just enjoy these two kids romping through the DC universe and being superheroes and being preteen teens. It was just fun. And this is just feels very unimaginative. And
yeah, I keep hoping, okay, they're gonna wrap up. Like a few issues ago, I thought, okay, they're gonna end this storyline and start some other one.
Yeah.
And that'll be fun. But I guess it's all 12 issues are going to be this kind of outer space.
You're right. And this nemesis, Lex Luthor kid
Rex Luthor, I think.
Right. And it just, it should not have been 12 issues of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it would be a
4
series
issues would have been fine.
Stories within the 12 issues.
Right.
Because when it first started, it seemed clear they were aiming for a younger demographic.
Mm-hmm.
And that younger demographic isn't going to enjoy such a long, stretched out story any more than I am.
No, I don't even think a younger demographic is going to enjoy this once it's all bound into one thing.
I agree.
For that long.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're talking, 100. Well, what 120 pages of
120 pages, 130, depending on whether these are 22 or 20 years.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really just sick of these characters, the villains in particular. But so, yeah, it's hard to decide to give up more than halfway through, but I may do it. I can't decide.
I'm pre-ordered deep enough in that there's only a little bit more to pre-order now. So
you're on number 10, even if you stop now. Probably.
Right, basically.
Number 9.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are elements of it I like, but
yeah.
I
mean, a story about a kid juvie prison could have been interesting, but in outer space, but it wasn't too interesting.
No.
Well.
No. Green Arrow. This is issue 49. The next issue is the final issue. This issue ends with him kind of fighting.
Have you been with it the whole Rebirth run?
No, I've dropped it multiple times. As new people get on the book, I pick it back up again going, hey, I like Green Arrow. What's this person going to do with Green Arrow? Nope, I'm done. Drop it. Get back on it again. I got on it for the Benson sisters, and now I'm just kind of writing out for these final few issues. They fight Vertigo in this. There's some cool art because they basically got to go like the movie Inception, where the buildings are sideways and upside down, and so the art's fun in it. They harken back to the whole Roy being killed because I guess Vertigo and Roy Arsenal, who is dead, of course, because of Heroes in Crisis. They were junkies together. They weren't necessarily users at the same time, but they were both in recovery together. So Vertigo is, for whatever reason, is looking for Roy, but we never find out why. He ends up getting defeated after basically making Oliver feel bad the fact that Roy's dead. It ends, and this issue ends with a robot showing up and dispensing paperwork to Black Canary, saying, Black Canary government agent, we need you to get rid of Green Arrow because Green Arrow is an issue. He's a problem. So he's a rogue. He's gone rogue. So we need you to get rid of him. And she's like, oh man. And so the next issue is going to be her getting rid of Green Arrow, which is the end of the comic because the comic ends with issue 50. It's done. I have not heard that it's relaunching or they're going to do anything else with it. So I have no idea. I'm picking it up, but I have no expectation of it being anything worth actually reading. So.
Yeah, it's really sad how Green Arrow just has not had a consistent good team on it.
Right. Well, as a long-term Green Arrow reader, I still stand by the fact the New 52 destroyed the character when they basically took 15, 20 years off of him, and he lost that kind of old person wisdom that you get after having done stuff for a while. And
that was a huge part of what was interesting about it.
And the re-exploring of that they've attempted to do has not been good. Him doing that kind of thing.
But you were fairly happy with it, I think, when Lemire and Sorrentino were on it?
That was fun and that run was fun because, of course, the Sorrentino art was great on it.
Right.
And it was interesting because they kind of did something different with the character. I mean, it's like, okay, the character's messed up. Let's do this. And they kind of made him almost mythic. They almost gave him like a mythic background. They had kind of the arrow and they had the spear and the fist. Right. And so there were like these little, I don't want to call them cults, but these little like martial arts mythical groups. And each group had a leader that basically carried the symbol, and that person had more power. And his father had the arrow, and he was potentially going to get it. And so Katana was the sword. She was actually the embodiment of the sword. So it was really interesting because it was cool. It kind of gave him a mythology beyond being Batman with arrows. Right. And so that was intriguing. I actually enjoyed that run.
It gave it more gravitas in another way rather than him himself.
So that's why I liked it. The art was awesome in it, and they just kind of, I mean, the character was, for me, it was messed up anyway. So them doing this with him made him interesting because then it gave him, like I said, he gave him something of a history that wasn't just another rich guy who has toys. His version of toys, instead of being a bat belt, is a quiver with, punching bag, punching, boxing glove arrows and stuff like that in it. So that made it intriguing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, he had a long history of not being an interesting hero before the Mike Grell days.
Right. Sure.
Or maybe before Denny O'Neil anyway.
Well, before Denny O'Neil, because once Denny O'Neil came along and they started teaming him up with Green Arrow, with Green Lantern, which is hilarious. I do not care for Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, but I love reading those. I love reading the two of them together, doing their kind of, them kind of playing the political social spectrum.
And Denny O'Neil gave him a point of view, and a way of looking at the world, which made him interesting. And that's
when I embraced Green Arrow. Before that, I didn't know who he was. I really didn't care. But once I started reading those, it was like, okay, cool. I mean, this is where this guy's coming from, and I can get behind that, and it made him interesting. And then the Grell era further made him complicated, made him a very valuable character. He still had those ideals, but he also, in his personal life, he made lots of bad relationship choices and stuff like that. And then after he died, when Brad Meltzer came back with the character, and Kevin Smith, when they brought him back, they kept all that stuff. They kept the kind of old man wisdom stuff, but he also still had, makes bad choices along the way. Judd Wittick's run actually was really good on it, because they delved into HIV and, some of their characters, and it just did a lot of good stuff. And it was interesting because it kind of followed along with where we were in America society with the stuff that's going on around us. And then when the New 52 hit, they just took all that and threw it out the door and made him this brash young adventurer with no rhyme or reason or cause as to why he was doing what he's doing. And I've never given it back to him. So
at that point, I think they just thought, well, make him like a young Steve Jobs or something. And that was all they needed.
Right. Or hey, this Arrow TV show seems to be working, so let's do that. And I've got nothing.
Then there was that phase,
and I've got nothing against that TV show for what it is and whatnot. But that's not what my Green Arrow ever was. So
Well, maybe someday in the future, someone will get a handle on him again.
Well, it'd be weird because for them to do that, they'd almost have to throw him back out of continuity or just suddenly go, he got lost on a spaceship and comes back and he time warped or I don't know what, kind of a thing.
Well, Rebirth was supposed to allow them to draw on all parts of the history again.
Well, and doing that, they pulled
Rebirth never fully gelled, I suppose.
Yeah, they pulled in more of the social justice warrior. They really clamored to that more, but still... Yeah, I mean, it didn't feel natural, I guess, at that point or something. I don't know. Any other DC books you want to talk about?
One last one. I don't think you read Deathstroke.
I do not.
And he wrapped up the Deathstroke Arkham storyline, which was either 5 or 6 issues.
I'd say it's gone on for a while, yeah.
Which I thought was really good. I'm a little bit confused, but I think I'm supposed to be on what really happened because there was a lot of mind effing going on in terms of what they were doing to Deathstroke while he was in Arkham and who was even in control of Arkham. Was it Dr. Hugo Strange? Was it actually the real psychiatrist still in control?
Right.
Was there really an alien invasion that he and Death Mask stopped, or did that not exist? But it was done. It was really cool. I do have to say that in general, I mean, I consider myself a fairly intelligent reader, but Christopher Priest makes me feel like I'm not quite smart enough to figure out everything that's going on. And that's a bit irritating. I think he could make it a little bit. You almost feel like you can hear the writer behind this saying, "Ha, I'm smarter than you, and you should be able to know what's going on." So that's my one caveat. But I still think people could pick up a trade of just this Arkham series and have a lot of fun reading it.
Cool.
There's some throwbacks to some other Deathstroke, and I've skipped reading some of it and I own all the issues, but it's one of the ones that I've let fall by the wayside. So I actually need to go back and see some of the references. But despite, my incomplete knowledge, I really enjoyed this arc overall. And the art has been, I'm trying to find a good example, but the artist has really worked hard at it too, which, at DC on kind of a C-level book in a way is sometimes surprising. Right. Like he's had all these great splash pages of the Asylum and stuff that have been really cool. So what's your last DC book?
My last DC book, I'm kind of surprised you didn't pick it up. The Female Fury.
Yeah, it's funny. I read a description of it and it was like, oh, this is going to be such a revision of things that I'm going to be banging my head against the wall. Is what I thought. So.
Well, and that I guess I could see that. So Female Fury is issue number 1, 6-issue miniseries, written by
Cecil.
Yeah, who wrote?
Who's a woman, even though her name is Cecil.
Right. Who? She wrote. She had the Changing Girl /
and
Woman.
Then Changing Woman, and Changing Girl was very good, and then Changing Woman was not so good.
Right, and I think that's an editorial blow up.
That's what it seemed like, yeah.
Right, as opposed to her fault. So the characters, we all like the Fourth World characters, right? So
right, the Female Furies are a great bunch of characters.
So I'm always kind of on board based on that. I do like, I do think the writer's a strong writer. So I was, curious to see what was going on with that. So, and 6 issues can't do too much damage to me, I figured. So I picked this up. I really enjoyed it. It is very much, it's Granny Goodness. It's kind of a historic, it's kind of like Granny Goodness. It starts out with back in the day when her and Darkseid are overthrowing Darkseid's mom to take control of Acropolis, basically, to take control of everything and whatnot. It's them starting that, and then it's kind of it does flashbacks and current time. Granny Goodness is trying to get the respect that the men get in the group. It really is kind of not to make it sound bad, it's a feminist rag that she's working twice as hard as the guys are and gets nothing for it. She does not get the reward. She's killing Darkseid's mother, strangling her to death. And she's like, Assad is standing there going, hurry up and do her in. And she's like, can't you see I'm trying to? And he's like, here, take this to finish her off, and it's a poison she pours down her throat and kills her. And so when Darkseid goes in and goes, did we kill her? And he's like, he takes credit. Yes, I killed her, even though Granny Goodness is the person who fought her the whole way through the thing.
Right.
They, fast forward, they force her to take over the orphanage because it's woman's work, and the guys all laugh and walk off and leave her. And she's like, fine, I'm pissed you're making me do this, but I'm gonna make the orphanage, I'm gonna make my kids the best they ever could be. So then she, of course, goes about creating this crack team of Furies. They have to test themselves, they have to prove that they're better. The guys make them do all this stuff, and then lo and behold, there's some old secret lore, some old law that says they basically, for them to get to fight alongside the guys, because what Granny Goodness wants to do, she wants to embed her people in with the regular fighters to do tactical attacks and whatnot. She's got all this stuff planned, and Darkseid is like, well, what do you guys think? And of course, the guys want nothing to do with this lady and her ladies. So they basically make them go through a pageant. They make them cook something. They make them wear evening gowns, which is the one ridiculous part of the whole book, but still funny in its sense. But it's basically an example of somebody going to work and all the horrible crap that a woman has to put up with in the workforce is what the book is.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoyed it. I don't know. I mean, I like the art. The art is interesting. It's like, parts of it seem modern looking, and then like if there's a flashback back to the old stuff, it almost has a 70s kind of
I can see that
a feel to it. So I really liked the flashbacks. I immediately liked it because of that, because it gave that kind of a look to it. But then when it gets back to the modern stuff, the more modern stuff looks slicker and cleaner and whatnot. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this using these characters and this take to kind of begin to tell the story of the struggle that women have to go through in the workforce. It ends with. Go ahead.
You've confirmed my not wanting to get it, even though you think it's good. And I would have to read it and like turn off my nostalgia for the original Fourth World comics. Yeah. Because it's using the Fourth World for a different purpose.
Exactly.
And that's fine, except it's not fine for me. I mean, it's fine that if they want to do that, and it's great that they can tell that story. Right.
So they kill off an abuser at the end of this, and it is, who's the head of the Furies? Not Barda, but
I never knew which one was in charge.
No, right now they're saying, what is her name?
Lashina.
No, Alluri.
Matt. I don't even know that one.
And maybe she's somebody that they created for this. It's the lady in green here.
I don't recognize her, but Kirby threw in so much, in a brief period of time, there might have been stuff in there.
Right. So right now she's quote unquote the best because she's the prettiest, strongest, blah, 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 blah of them. And she's the one that's taking the abuse for all the other Furies as far as the handsy people and whatnot. But they end up killing a guy that they shouldn't kill because he is wrecking. They're trying to do their job, and he comes in, trying to steals it from them and makes them miserable and whatnot. And they end up killing him off, and now they're going to hide him on a comet. And Bart is swearing that, your family, we're not going to expose anybody. So, but you're right. I mean, if you were looking at this coming into this as it being kind of a purist, let's tell an old school story of these characters. It's not. I mean, it's a vehicle. It's a vehicle to tell something else.
Right. And what my inner geek wants is further exploration of the world that Jack Kirby created.
Right.
And this is a metaphor for the workplace, which to me is odd because to me it was a metaphor for the Bible and for the Nazi Holocaust and things like that.
Right.
And to turn the Holocaust into a metaphor for the workplace is just for me, it's hard. It's a hard mental U-turn to make.
Right. Well, because they're not looking at that whole destruction end of thing. It's just this group of women, and Granny Goodness in particular, and Granny Goodness trying to achieve what she feels is her rightful place in the hierarchy as being one of Darkseid's right-hand men and not being allowed that.
Yeah. And it might have been, it probably depends on how you read it, but I don't remember anything where Granny Goodness didn't seem like one of the major players who got a lot of respect, as much respect as anyone got from Darkseid,
right?
Who mistreats his own children and threatens everybody around him with death and torture, even his closest lieutenants.
Right.
But,
I guess
I can see that it makes a snazzy metaphor for abuses in the workplace.
Yeah. Now, see, I don't see it as a story that Kirby wouldn't have told. If Kirby was around now still telling stories, because of the type of stories he told, to me, this isn't that far removed from something that he might have done.
To me, Kirby was making a statement by having these very powerful females as a major part of his story in a world where usually you didn't, well, a lot of interpretations of the Fantastic Four is every time Kirby was trying to show Sue Storm take some power, Stan Lee was rewriting it so that in the captions and in the dialogue, she was being put down.
Right.
And then when he got to do books on his own, he would throw in strong characters like Big Barda and Granny Goodness on the side of darkness and everything. But so, my own interest in Big Barda is her journey to becoming one of the good guys.
Right. Oh, yeah, 100%.
And to me, she's already powerful and empowered, and I want to be beyond that. And and I'm interested in the good and evil kind of.
Yeah, I would definitely have the book for you. And I didn't know what it was going to be going into it. I'm entertained. I'm entertained by it for what it is, but certainly you're right in the fact that it does not. Whereas I feel like Mr. Miracle still kind of.
Yes, Mr. Miracle still played with all of that.
Right. Whether you like the way it ended or not, it's still.
Yes. Mr. Miracle took what Kirby had and built around it in other layers, but it was all still felt directly related to.
Yeah. And this isn't.
And so, I think I'll probably be able to read it, when it's all done and I've settled in my mind, okay, don't read this as a fourth world book in the way that you want.
Right.
But, I started reading those things when I was 10 and they really had a big impact on me. So it's, if I'd started reading them when I was 20, I'd have a completely different feeling about them.
Right. I have to agree. Anything that seems like with a certain period of a certain age, you read that and it informs a certain way. And then it's hard. Right. It's hard to get around.
I longed for more stories about this world. And so I still have that thing going on.
Yeah, for sure. But that was it. That was my last DC book. Yeah.
In DC news, there's that they finally released the first episode of the Doom Patrol.
Yes.
Which, you know what? I have Marvel, DC Universe. But I'm afraid to watch it.
Yeah. And here I'm trying to figure out, I got to do some looking around to see how do I get that to where I can watch it on my television. I will probably here in the next couple of weeks, I will probably break down and get on the thing so I can watch the Doom Patrol, because I can't just let that go by without as much as I'm afraid of what it might be. I can't let it go. I can't let it go by. I'm way too much of a Doom Patrol fan not to.
Our friend Ryan wrote a rave review of it on his blog. Yeah. And said it drew heavily from Grant Morrison's first issue of the Doom Patrol. So that's made me more intrigued.
Right. Interesting.
But even though I have DC Universe, I've yet to watch any of the new shows. Like, I've not watched the Titans yet or anything.
Yeah.
But
I don't currently really have the time though either. That's my thing. Because I keep telling myself when I do order it, then I'll just power watch and whatever.
Right. So you might as well wait a few months till they release them all and then order it.
Right.
Because I'd say overall DC Universe, it's not worth it for the comic book content at all.
Yeah.
So it's really just for the TV content. So just get it for a few months once a year, get it for a month or something.
Right. So I heard people talking, and because I've been so busy, I haven't been able to catch the whole part of it. Some of our group of friends on Twitter, and whatnot, that there's some villain book coming out.
they're going to do like a year of villains or something. I'm
Is
unclear
that
about
is that the DC's thing that Tom Taylor keeps kind of, because Tom Taylor was kind of floating out there.
I don't follow him on Twitter, so I don't.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't sure if that was the connection, but I'd heard that there's going to be this year-long.
And it's going to start with like a 25-cent comic or something along those lines.
And then go for a year.
So I'm not sure which books it's going to interfere with.
Yeah, see, that's the first thing that anything that's an eventish that suddenly starts sabotaging what else I'm reading, that just, yeah, I don't know.
Probably it'll be something where you might get a filler issue in each book that you're reading over the course of the year, hopefully, and not more than that. Yeah. And I don't know what the basic premise is.
Yeah. I guess I should have looked that up before I mentioned it, because I didn't bother to actually check out and see what exactly it was that they were talking about to see what it is. I just don't see why they don't do a villain book. If they want to do a villain book, why don't they just do a villain book? Instead of having this Justice League Legion of Doom thing, just do a Legion book for a Legion of Doom book for a while, and have it, tell different stories with
it. And if that were freestanding, I would like a book just about villains. I'd probably get that and not the Justice League. But.
Yeah, probably me too. Yeah. So I don't know. That's.
But I think that my theory, reading the tea leaves, is that DC was on this course to do a bunch of things, and then this new woman took over. And there's been a whole bunch of problems with her idea of what DC should be versus where they were already.
Right. The new exec. And I don't know how much that is just our personal feelings about corporate people taking over stuff. I mean, I don't know how much of
there's enough stuff on the web that feeds that feeling, whether it's true or not.
Right. That's kind of how I am too. I try not to be biased in that sense. But when you hear her saying brand, that she's concerned about brand, this kind of makes you nervous that it doesn't matter what it matters what the content is, but we need to keep it generic enough that we can just continue to sell the brand as opposed to being bold and trying to do something with these characters.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I almost feel like that. Well, so my theory is they had these plans, and her sudden arrival has put them into chaos, and a lot of things are on hold or being changed.
If Black Label doesn't tell us that, I don't know what else does, the way that's all turned around.
And some podcasts I listen to that claim to have insidery kind of knowledge say that that Batman Damned, they've had to repaint panels.
I know I just got an email yesterday, a day before yesterday, from Discount Comic Service, where I get my books from, telling me that the Dam was canceled and will be resolicited at a later date.
Right.
So it was on track to be released on time, and now suddenly it's not.
Yeah. So it's being sent back to the artist, and certain panels are being repainted. And there was some other thing that was being changed. And of course, the book about Jesus being the roommate of a Superman-like hero was canceled, even though, I mean, it's in the solicits this month's previews.
Well, right. I already ordered issue number 2.
Yeah, it's on my pull list, and issue 2 was solicited.
Yep.
And on one hand, I can see why a big corporation maybe just does want to steer clear of stories about Jesus, but before they thought it was okay, and suddenly they don't.
To me, that's just crazy. That's the publicity that you want, isn't it? True. To have 120,000 people supposedly signing some stupid internet.
I think it's even higher now, like 320 or something.
Okay, well, whatever. To me, it's crazy that these people who probably would never have read the comic anyway are signing a petition. That's free advertising.
Yes.
I mean, I saw a while ago Sean Murphy talking about Punk Rock Jesus when he was doing it, and that he did everything he could to try and get that kind of publicity. He would send links to the Million Moms people going, protest my book, please. Because that's the kind of, I mean, you want a certain amount of that, a certain amount of push and shock. And so for Vertigo, especially Vertigo that put out Preacher, desperate. Vertigo that put out all these Lucifer, Vertigo that put out all these books kind of, questioning those kinds of things. For them to walk away from that, just boggles my mind. I think it's great for the
Yeah.
creators. I think it's great for the creators because
They're
the
going to have
creators
more ownership and
Exactly.
free publicity. Yeah.
exactly because they got all the rights back. Kudos to Vertigo and DC for allowing them to actually own the book because they still could have hung on to it.
Yeah. I think it's because they want to keep Mark Russell happy because he's sort of turning into a hot writer for them.
Right. So allowing them to walk away and produce it at Image and I can't imagine there's not a single independent publisher that won't be interested in publishing the book because it has this energy behind it. Because for every person that like, oh, the internet, I'm not going to get this, there's going to be one or two people going, wow, if it's that controversial, I at least want to check out issue number 1 just because it's controversial, right?
Right. But the new person at DC doesn't care about sales on a short-term basis. They just have their idea of brand.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I get it.
I think there's going to be, I think they have to now second guess themselves on everything on the editorial level of like, what are we going to be allowed to do this? Or are we going to get fired for this?
Right.
Because they also laid off a bunch of people at DC. And even if that has nothing to do with issues about branding and off-color things, it tends, as you know, from a workplace, tends to make everyone a little more cautious and a little more uneasy and look behind their shoulder all the time.
Well, let's just do everything safe. We like I said, we stay in this lane and never venture away from that to either fall on our face or come up with the next, whatever the next, Dark Knight Returns or the next Watchmen or the next whatever, we're not going to see because if everybody's afraid.
And all those great books were off-brand, if you want to look at it that way. Like a 50-year-old Batman.
They were until now
they become the brand, right?
Right. They're the linchpins of how the books are. Right. The tone they all have now.
Yeah.
Is
if
based
that
off
woman
of
understands that, she may think it's all Super Friends or something.
Right. Which I'm cool with some books being that too. I don't know.
Yeah.
It bothers.
I'm totally cool with kids' books, but
it bothers me. It bothers me to think that the creativity is stymied.
Yeah.
Under those conditions, that seems a shame.
So I, again, in my very cynical, likes to read between the lines kind of thing, I'm thinking this villains year that's suddenly popping up is because all their other plans are sort of on hold or, a little more doubtful now. Because it seemed like they were on track for focusing on superstar writers and things like that, bringing them into the fold. Right. I don't know how long, Kelly Sue DeConnick or other people are going to hang around if they are losing their creative freedom.
Exactly. Yeah.
Stay Puff mentions cancellations of absolutes and omnibuses, and I did hear something about that. I haven't tracked exactly what those are, but a bunch of them were canceled.
Oh, really? Oh.
And I wonder if that's, again, a new person looking at the books and saying, well, looking at the books in terms of accounting books and saying, maybe we don't want to do these particular projects. Or, I don't know. Or I think I did see someone online suggesting it was because of the layoffs and those were projects being done by some of the people who got laid off.
Well, that could be too. Yeah.
So anyway, DC, it feels like there's always Marvel or DC going through some problems.
Right.
And now it seems to be swinging back to DC.
Right. Well, and of course, we're just looking out for people who clearly are way on the outside.
Right.
Yeah, taking our bets.
Way on the outside, but thinking way too much about these.
Right.
Things.
Like we understand how all that works and whatnot.
Yeah, we have no real clue.
There is not. But we do have history.
We have history.
We've been reading the book since, the 70s and 80s and whatnot. And we have seen stuff happen.
Yeah.
I remember opening up books and having this laundry list of all these wild titles that we were going to get. And then none of them existed because DC went through their massive shrinkage. So, we have, because of the longevity of how long we've been reading comics, we have the longevity to know that stuff like this does happen.
Yeah.
Of course, now we have the internet to give us more,
gossip.
Right. More gossip to add to the fuel to the what's really happening fire,
Yeah.
but it's all it's all interesting.
I wouldn't even have known people like Diane Nelson and now this new woman existed if I didn't have the internet. I would just think Dan DiDio ran the company.
Right.
But now I realize no, he's got people he has to answer to. And
right. 100%. So yeah. Anyway, want to move on to some independent books?
Definitely.
Okay. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I have a feeling that we have not read many of the same, but I think you got Die.
I did.
And I started out, I've been just picking this up off the shelf, not putting it on my pull, which is like me thinking I'm going to wait for trades or something. But now I've decided to put it on my pull. I really am buying in. You have a different cover than I do.
Yes, I do. I have this is the A cover. This is.
Oh, I guess I got a B cover without realizing it.
Yeah.
I was thinking, this cover doesn't tell you much about the issue. I like that cover better.
Right.
But this issue was very intriguing. It had a lot to do with J.R.R. Tolkien and his experiences in World War I. And a version of him is kind of the master of this particular side of the 20-side dice. I hate saying die. I like dice. Yeah. That is the world. This world, which I think last issue when I realized the world was a different world on each face of the dice, that started to suck me in. And then this issue kind of sealed it with the interesting things that Kieran Gillen is doing with his creation here.
Right. For me, I really like the book on a number of levels. As somebody, as a kid and well into adulthood, used to role play a ton. I mean, that was number one entertainment for me for a long time. It tickles some things with that. The idea of the last issue, what really hit me was the idea of if in any of the campaigns I played in and whatnot, if I actually had to live in that world and actually, and then I had to live with the consequences, of the ridiculous choices that I make, was really intriguing to me. So like if I had to go back to a world that I role played in and had to live in it and come face to face with people that NPCs that I made decisions for or whatever, that to me, that was like really frightening and really like, ooh, that's really cool from the last issue. And then this issue, of course, it's playing with, like you said, with the Tolkien stuff, the whole World War I, it's clearly that stuff. And I mean, they really stab you in the heart by the end of this issue, just the whole, writing this note to send back to the loved ones, all of that ended up. It's if you know anything about World War I, the whole futility of the actual people who were fighting the fight in the trenches,
the cannon fodder of World War I.
You're right. And this really nails that down really well. And then I have to admit, I also read the back matter of this issue.
I did too. I was surprised that I got through it.
Right. And him kind of basically implying that, this is going to be I'm going to do the same kind of thing like Ellis did with Planetary, where they kind of, we can be archaeologists, we can go and venture into different times or different,
was really interesting,
or different genres and whatnot.
He reread all of Planetary as part of his preparation for this.
Yeah. So that excites me too, because I just feel like that just opens the door for, how much storytelling can we tell? Plus just the kind of the complexity of each of these characters, some more than others, how their powers work, how do they function, the fact that they know none of this is real, but at the same time, they have to kind of operate like it's real at the same time is all just really, I don't know, really good. And of course, the Stephanie Hans gorgeous painted works to me. I love her greens and her reds. That seems to be kind of be her go-to color palette. And anything she's ever done, any Marvel work I've ever read of hers, I just really kind of like that's color palette. To me, it's really striking. And so
Stephanie Hans is my harder. I mean, I can see why everyone loves her art, but I don't.
No,
I find it distancing and uncompelling and too much like illustration and not like comics.
Okay.
And like digital illustration, like it's painterly, but there's none of the sloppiness of paint or the human touch of paint. And I feel held back by it. And I almost felt like, okay, this is going to sound sexist of me, and it's just metaphorical, but I felt like I was reading a story. I very much felt like I was reading a story written by a male kind of way of thinking and attempted to be interpreted through a female visual way of thinking in a way that I've never really felt in a comic book before. And I feel there's a bit of a conflict there, but maybe that'll make it interesting for me over time. So for me, even though this is what looks to be stunning art, it's the writing that has sold me on it. And I feel like Kieran Gillen, I guess I mean, I've read bits and pieces of him. Like I read part of Wicked and Divine before I gave up on that.
Sure.
And I've read some of his Marvel work, but I really see his intelligence and his deep understanding of fantasy, and I presume of role-playing games because I haven't played many of them, and of character. I'm just super impressed by the writing. Yeah. I think I will slowly get more and more into the art. I enjoyed this issue art-wise a bit more than the previous ones, but I do feel held off. Maybe, you know, the female stereotype that I'm going by is kind of from a male point of view, a lack of concreteness.
Okay.
A lack of, you know, just getting in the muck and squishing around.
Right.
Like so maybe male and female may be the wrong thing, but that's just sort of because they are male and female the way I've interpreted it. Right. But anyway, this issue made me really love it, and I'm definitely putting it on the pull, and it's not something I want to wait for the trade for or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
It is sort of like the guy on Green Lantern. What's his face? It's amazing that this can be done monthly or even close to monthly, art-wise. I mean, it's incredible art.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how far out in advance they are. And I'm assuming at some point we'll get to the end of an arc and we'll get a break like we have, you know, most of the image type books at this point. It feels to me like they were talking about this book quite some time ago. And I do follow the artist. She's not real active on Twitter, but it feels to me like she's kind of commented that, you know, she's been working on it for a while. So I don't know.
You know what's weird is she did a few pages in Asgardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
Which threw me. So I didn't know she was a Marvel artist.
Yeah, she so when I was reading you know, Angela, all the different Angela books that have come out recently, the you know, the Assassin of Asgard, you know, all those different ones.
Right.
She would do random issues in that. I mean, she wasn't the main artist, but like if if they went to a particular fantasy realm, like they go to like Ragnarok or something, or they're telling an old story of a time, you know, long ago back in the day when, you know, in ancient times, that will be done. She would do the painting for it and whatnot. And she did for all the different versions of the Angela books that that both Gillian wrote and Margaret Bennett. There would be issues that she would do the art for,
right?
You know, kind of a thing. So she's been around, you know, doing.
It's nice that she's doing an indie book. Then, I think this is going to have much more legs to it than your average Marvel book. It'll be around a long time. People will be buying it, you know, a decade from now and raving about it. And they buy all the collected editions.
For me, this is a stronger book than Wicked and Divine is.
Definitely for me.
Wicked and Divine, which I love, but it is a little, hipster's not the right word for it, but it's kind of along those lines. You have to be part of a clique of sorts, and they're very welcoming to bring as many people into that. But you have to have kind of a certain sense of a pop culture sensibility. To be kind of in the same mindset and of the same music and of the same kind of thing that those creators are to really completely embrace a lot of that. Not that you can't get something out of it anyway, you can. I think this is easier to consume because it hits more stuff that I think more people are interested in. Even if you're not a role player, the fantasy aspect of it, you can get behind that. You can get behind the whole, you know, if you want to look at it from a Narnia standpoint, you can look at it that way. And there's just a lot of ways to come at this book from different experiences and go, oh, okay, I kind of see what they're doing. And, you know, you mentioned that his writing is really good. I think this is his best stuff. I mean, I've been reading his work for a long time. I mean, back to the independent phonogram days and whatnot. And he just progressively he is a better writer. And each project that he goes on to me, that at least the stuff that I get, each thing is better than the last thing. You know, he gets better as he's writing the same thing, but he stays, because he has an idea of what he's doing. He kind of stays within that wheel of what's going on with it. And then so when he starts the next new thing, he elevates whatever he's got going on. And this is right now, 3 issues maybe is early to be saying so, but it feels like this is the pinnacle of what he's been doing.
Right. Yeah. It seems potentially like it could become kind of a comic book masterpiece or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when this first came out, there were people who were floating, this could be the next saga. And I kind of went, okay, come on, let's.
Yeah, the first issue was a little bit cliched.
Everybody wants the next thing to be the next saga, especially if you're a person who's selling comic books. You're desperate.
Need a next saga.
You're desperate for the next saga. This is smart enough. It could be. No, I mean, when I say next saga, not that it is in the same thing.
Right. It's definitely a very different thing.
But it has the same potential, because I feel like a huge portion of the audience that is reading Wicked and Divine, and it's a big audience, is all on this book. Plus, you're going to pull in more people, I think, because it's easier consumable. The whole kind of fantasy realm of it is much easier to consume than, like I said, with the Wicked and Divine, the pop culture-esque stuff and whatnot. It's a lot more narrowly focused as far as what kind of people are going to be on it. So.
And Mike Humple mentions an important point, that there's going to be a game that goes with this.
Yeah,
he talks about it in the essay at the back here, I think. And I wonder, because, well, I don't know enough about role-playing games, but if the game comes out too early, could it spoil some stuff in the book?
I guess it depends on, you know, how much stuff is source material and whatnot. If they're going to release a bunch of source material, then you start, then I'm worried you're going to take away from the surprise of where's the next place they're going to turn up.
The fun of exploring the world. I won't get the game, at least not till it's done. But
I won't either. But yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So well, and you're talking about the Gillian is a writer who keeps getting better. That excites me a lot too, because I thought the first issue was good, but the character structure was a bit familiar.
Right.
But now they're becoming more complicated already. Now you can, because you're probably were paying more attention to me. Dominic Ashe, who was kind of the main character, or seems so in the first issue, I thought was a male character in the first issue.
Yes.
I'm wondering if it's a character who has either gone non-gender or changed.
It's trans. They're definitely a trans character.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't say it outright, that I noticed.
They.
I'll have to go back to issue 2.
Yeah, last issue they pretty heavily. I mean, they call her ma'am in this. I mean,
right. But I just thought maybe I forgot.
No, and she chooses not to correct them if she's not.
Right.
So,
but no one says, "Oh, since your change" or anything like that I remember.
Right. Well, yeah, all of her compatriots all of her companions, all of her friends, if that's what they are. Right. I mean, they're used to her being that here.
But she wasn't in the first issue, right? She was a boy.
In the real world, when she was 16, yes. And when she was an adult, I think she's still operating as, I'm not sure. I need to go back and look at one to see as an adult if she's she, he, or they. I'm not sure. But clearly in the fantasy world,
it's a she.
She's she. She is she.
But like in the description of her at the beginning, it just says Dominic Ashe in the real world, Ashe in the world of Dai, married in marketing, Saul's best friend. But it avoids telling you that one thing.
Right. So I need to go back and look at one because I don't think so. I think that, I mean, so as 16-year-olds, when they go into the world in the first place.
But we don't, in the first issue, we don't even see them in the world. We see them go in and then we see them come back out.
Right. Well, but he seems to be a he at that point as Ashe, he at that point. As an adult, when they find the dye, the bloody dye and whatnot, I'm not sure at that point. I'm not sure what gender description is put in there, but clearly in the fantasy world, she's using the gender sheet, which clearly when you're role playing, you can play whatever kind of character you want to. So.
Yeah, well, so that's an interesting element. I mean, in this situation, it kind of makes it more interesting.
Agreed.
It's another aspect of fantasy, right?
Right.
My couple is either joking or serious about doing Deadpool Batman fanfic, but fanfic's often a way where people explore odd sexuality and stuff. So I just made that. So I hadn't thought about role-playing games as a way for people that could possibly explore different sexualities or types.
Yeah.
We're both reading Cemetery Beach. Yes. Oh, sorry, it was your turn next.
Yes, no, go ahead. No, that's fine. Cemetery Beach, yes, issue number 6 of 7.
Penultimate issue.
Right.
This has continued to be fun. My only complaint about it is I would have rathered Trees. I mean, it's a much shallower story than Trees.
Yeah, I don't know why they decided that they wanted to do this before they went back to Trees, because they are going back to Trees. I mean, Jason Howard I've seen panels of him drawing characters from Trees. So
too, yeah. And his art in here is just awesome. I mean, it's a showcase for him.
Yeah.
It doesn't really show off Warren Ellis. It's sort of Warren Ellis doing a very similar story to other things he's done recently. Like, well, there was another alternate world one that he did for Aftershock, where someone was visiting a different world.
Oh, anyway. Shipwreck.
This is like the Arnold Schwarzenegger version of Shipwreck.
It really does feel like to some degree, Jason Howard, I've been making you do all these kind of, sit around in apartment scenes and paint flowers and stuff like that. Here, I'm going to write this, somewhat shallow, kind of an idea, and you just go crazy for 7 issues. Yeah. Doing whatever kind of action sequence you want to do. We'll sell that, and then we'll go back to doing this stuff that maybe isn't your favorite thing to do. It's almost what it feels like. I mean, I have no idea, but that's almost what it feels like, because that's what this is. This is just a big, giant, long action scene. Right. It is really cool.
It is really cool, and it has shades of not Blade Runner. Well, it does have some Blade Runner, but
Road Warrior.
Road Warrior. There's a lot of Road Warrior feel to it and stuff, and I love that kind of thing. Is maybe they're thinking, let's do this quick thing that can be optioned as a movie. Maybe we'll make some money, and then we'll go back to Trees. That's a slow burn and less immediate financial reward or something.
Right. But there can't be much to it when there's only one more issue left.
I know.
And it's literally them it's like, basically there's this world, and it's made up of a bunch of rings and a bunch of walls, and they're quickly going from the center, blasting out towards Cemetery Beach so he can get back to his rocket machine and take this woman that's helping him, and they zap back to Homeworld.
Right. And there's an underlying idea of like, what's the sanity of people who go on these kinds of missions and explorers, and what's but it's all going to stay in the background and never.
I mean, because a normal version of a Warren Ellis book like this, like this issue in particular, where they crash into the realm that kind of the layer that she is from, which has
where
got
the
all the
bodies
kind of
are kept frozen for
right, where they're the meat, basically the live meat is there for the body parts and whatnot. That would be something that we go into, and it would be creepy and morally disturbing. And here they just barely touch on it.
right.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if any of them were alive or hurt or I knew. And that's as close as we get. That's as close as we get to scratching that.
So, and I know that Wednesday Serial Matt out there is watching now, and he wants me to talk about Transmet. It's interesting to read this, which has almost no words in it, after he and I read a bunch of Transmet volumes a little while ago, which is like probably more words on one page of Transmet than an entire issue of Cemetery Beach.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely recommend this to people. It's just a shame that trees have been delayed so long.
Right. Right. But definitely this will be, I mean, when this gets printed out in a trade, if you haven't been picking up the singles, it will be a fun, quick blast of a
really
read.
Fun.
So, yeah.
I kind of hope they do it. Usually I read a comic and I say, I hope they don't do a movie of this.
Right.
But I'd love to see some just really creative action director.
Well, because you can't.
This.
Well, yes, because you can't. You couldn't wreck this with a movie. You know, to me, to some degree, it's like the comic is, in a lot of ways, the
there's
comic
no subtleties to throw away.
Right. The comic is perfect. Lots of times I always want to say, there's just stuff you do with sequential art and storytelling you can't do movie-wise. There really isn't those elements in this, though. This is just, pure action fun.
Right. And you can smash up a lot of trucks and stuff.
Exactly. A lot of explosions. Yes. And people wearing weird costumes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And a big, fat, gross bad guy.
Yes. 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 For sure. For sure. I'm going to talk about BPRD.
The Devil You Know.
The Devil You Know. This is issue number 13. There's 2 more issues left, and the BPRD is done. There will be no more.
Do you believe them?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Now they're going to, there's going to be short stories that might have some of the cast of the BPRD in it, but it won't just be purely this supposed straightforward ongoing thing that has been in it. The body count continues to be incredibly high. Named characters are dying in very uncinematic ways. Which to me is always shocking when they do in characters. They just kind of get, overwhelmed or shot in the head. And you're just kind of going, that's it. That's all there is.
That's all they're going to do for the death of
right. Because, you get so used to seeing the important people, have these dramatic, precipice type deaths. And that has not been the case with this book largely. A lot of people have just been chewed up in the swarm of stuff that's happening. I don't know. I love this book. I love the characters. I'm not excited how this is ending. As I've said multiple times here recently, with the kind of we're ending it, we're not ending it, has kind of made it feel weird because at one point it felt like we had taken out the giant monsters and maybe the earth is going to recover at some point from that. Lo and behold, the giant monsters are back. Rasputin has suddenly appeared. Rasputin's like 14 foot tall, and it looks like it's going to be it's the final battle is coming. The kind of foretold Hellboy in some way meeting the role that has been dictated to him since the conception of Hellboy.
So are we seeing Hellboy in the BPRD now?
Yes, he is back.
Okay.
He's back.
That's somewhat interesting because
he is back from hell.
The very beginning of Hellboy.
Yeah, he is back from hell. He doesn't have his horns, and he's not really fighting. He's not really fighting to be the Lord of Hell because he's kind of jacked up hell pretty badly. When he was in hell, he kills Satan and a few other people and really messes up the hierarchy there. So there are some hell people, some people from hell walking the earth, but there are these other things that kind of have been the real nemesis through the BPRD are reasserting themselves again. It's like they thought they got rid of them, but they're suddenly appearing. Most of humankind is trying to rush to get underground before this final battle hits. But right now it's looking to line up. That looks like it's going to be Liz Sherman, Abe Sapien, and Hellboy versus Rasputin. Looks to be what's going to be the brawl in the next 2 issues, which I'm looking forward to. That. I'm curious to see that's going to be cool and whatnot. But it also feels like it kind of ends everything. It ends the world. Right. It ends. So everything that's going to be told is going to be prior to this. I mean, so we're going to get more BPRD issues, but it's going to be Hellboy, the BPRD 1956, Hellboy, the BPRD 1957. That's what we're going to get, what we're going to get told and how we're going to get told it. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to get all that stuff because I like the universe and I like the characters in the universe, but it does, I feel like they kind of messed up some of the magic of the universe with this kind of sputter that happened.
Maybe they should have put all of these elements in the original Apocalypse and end the Apocalypse.
Yeah. Well,
instead of, so it's like, okay, we have some new ideas. Let's kind of redo this a little bit.
Right. Which is, to me, is unfortunate because I mean, it was a big deal, when Liz was when she was like super powerful and Johann was in the armor from the Sledgehammer 77, and they kind of, they wrecked the Black Flame, and then they kind of went around and blew up these huge, monstrous creatures, and kind of had ended everything. And it was kind of like, now the story's going to be them kind of cleaning it up, fighting some weird occultists, and kind of let's put the world back together. And that was when Mignola was talking about leaving, and then he decided, no, I still want to do comics. And then they kind of recharged everything, and now they're going to end it again. I don't know. Seems somewhat dysfunctional storytelling, but
yeah. Well, if you can get past that, it sounds like it's still fun. Is it still Chris Robertson as the main script?
No.
Did Arcudi come back?
No. There's a big riff going on there too with that with.
I saw some comments on Twitter that he was a bit oblique.
Well, but I can tell you exactly what it is.
After a while, I kind of guessed.
So, Scott Alley, who was, of course, the editor and kind of had to walk away from some his behavior issues.
He had some definite problems.
Yeah, but he was the one that kind of helped write Abe Sapien. He has come on and he has been doing the writing duties for quite a while now. So Abe Sapien didn't end, as much as I love that whole run of Abe Sapien didn't end well either. So that's the other thing that makes me nervous about the combinations here. No, Robinson is helping write the Hellboy and the BPRD books. He's helping write that. Strangely, John Arcudi is writing another book that's in the Hellboy universe.
Yeah, I noticed he was back at Dark Horse, which is why I asked.
Yeah, he's writing the Lotus Blossom, but he is getting burnt. He has been burnt, in my opinion, his opinion too, obviously. The Hellboy movie that's coming out, there's a main character in that is purely his creation. It is a character he created that he put in the Hellboy universe to help drive some stories. The best Hellboy, the BPRD stuff was during the time that John Arcudi was writing the book. The universe was interesting and intriguing up until that point. Once John got in there, he just added tons of layers to all of these characters, made them much more complex, made secondary characters that you would think would be throwaway characters, made them all interesting and intriguing type people. They're using one of those people in the movie, and John is getting no credit. He's getting no money. He is getting nothing. It's like he had nothing to do with it whatsoever.
So on Twitter, he seemed to be blaming Dark Horse without naming them. But is Mignola?
He's basically asking. The conversation I had with him around it was, why is this happening? Somebody give me a reason why this would happen. Because I mean, I think he generally is frustrated in that he just doesn't understand why somebody would do this to him. And I'm like, first off, I don't know your situation. Is it personal? Is there some lawyer in their ears going, don't give him anything because if you give him an inch, he'll want a mile?
Or did Mignola already sell all the rights a while ago and maybe he's not getting any more money either?
Right. Yeah, I have no idea. I chose not to ask what the
problem is that Twitter and all the internet, you you come in at different points in the conversation. So I came in and he was saying, why would you people buy comics from a company who does this to someone, without naming the company?
Right.
And I'm like, well, if you would say what company it is, if you creators are mad at us for buying comics from people who treat you bad, but you won't say who it is, how are we supposed to know how to behave as consumers?
Right.
Now that's probably not at all his intention, but that's sort of where I came in. That's how I sort of read.
And I have to admit that as somebody who is frustrated with the way, our legends were treated back in the day, all those people, part of me is frustrated that this is happening to a guy that I like his work. I mean, there is very little of his that I have read. Even Doom Patrol, I even liked his weird run of Doom Patrol that he did.
Arcudi did Doom Patrol?
Yeah, he did.
I didn't know that.
Patrol in the early 2000s. That was odd. It was strange, but I really liked it. I feel guilty that I'm buying some of these books.
Yeah.
These people are actively screwing him, and it feels like they are. But the other side of me says, you signed a contract, and the contract, you in a modern age, and maybe it's simpleton for me to say this, in the modern age, when we've seen all the forebearers get screwed, in the modern age, you would think you would know going in what you're getting yourself into. But
I think you often have people tell you orally one thing.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And you don't realize the implications of the contract you've.
Yeah. As we know, because we've talked about
that. And we also know, for instance, from the behavior of DC Comics, at least under Levitz, that you can make a choice of how you treat your creators, whatever the contract is.
Right.
And
even past Levitz, they've continued to. They didn't have to give Phil Hester screen credit for Diablo in the Suicide Squad movie. They didn't have to cut him a check. They didn't.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize they did that. So I don't know.
I think he paid for his house with the check that he got off of it.
Well, that's nice.
So So I mean that's part of John Arcudi's thing is like, look, the big companies who've got tons of money and have the power to really not care. Even they care enough to give people.
Well, sometimes they do. Marvel hasn't always cared.
Right. Yeah, Marvel's a little behind.
And you hear a lot of people saying, I created this major character at Marvel that appeared in the movies, and for this minor character I did at DC, I got way more money.
Right.
Right. But I think it's unfair of a creator. This is a total side issue.
Sure.
But to be mad at the fans for what they buy.
Right.
This is their professional world, and they should be mad at the people they're mad at. Yeah. The fans, first of all, may not know. Second of all, we can't sort through we don't have all the information to pass judgment.
Right. I don't really think he's angry at us for consuming this stuff, because clearly he's made some money or is making some money of us buying that old stuff. I mean, and buying it the whole time. I mean, I've been buying it since he's been on the book. I've been buying it. Clearly, I help, put money in his pockets. So it's not like I've done him harm. But I do admit that reading the stuff now that I know he was part of, it does make me somewhat uncomfortable. No, I'm clearly not.
And he's not outright saying, don't buy any Dark Horse because they screwed me over. He's saying, oh, if you knew that someone was screwing people over, would you buy?
Well, because I think he legitimately doesn't understand. I think he really truly does not have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's kind of waited.
But these are questions to ask Mike Mignola and the editors he works with, and
maybe he's not. But maybe he's already asked them, and they're not answering him. So now he's,
or is he being passive aggressive? I guess.
Right. Or if he does it publicly, kind of this way, maybe we help force the answer.
Maybe, yeah. And there is a precedent for that, because it was the bad publicity surrounding the first Reeves Superman movie that got Siegel and Schuster some money.
Right.
But the other thing is, as you remember, I think we know that sometimes individuals in modern comics screw over other individuals.
Exactly.
And so I can't tell from what Arcudi's talking about who screwed him over.
Right.
You know, should I boycott all Mike Mignola comics because he's a bad business person?
Right, because he's a greedy bastard, or yeah, 100%, 100%.
And what's Mike Mignola's version of the story? You know,
right? I just feel bad for him that literally
it is bad.
Somebody who's going to be on screen for the entire movie, which clearly is going to make some money. There's money there. Why couldn't they have given him some, whatever that sum is, because it sounds to me like he's getting zero and
credit.
Credit
too.
I mean,
because he wants to write in Hollywood. If he could say, I created this character, look, there's my credit in the film, that's a film credit. I mean, there's all kinds of implications of shutting people down.
Yeah. So, get off that subject.
Yeah, sorry we got on that.
No. I mean, I think it's interesting, and like I said, I had plenty of conversations around my house around it too, because I just kind of, like I said, part of me feels
because you guys
bad.
have been big readers of this whole universe for a long time.
Well, right, and like I said, I'm an advocate of shame on these people in the past, screwing these people over, the stuff that happened to those people, kind of thing. And then I kick myself at the same time too, because like I said, in the modern world, we know how people get screwed over. Do the stuff you need to protect yourself. I mean, but I don't know. Anyway, what other books you got?
The Wrong Earth wraps up its first arc, issue 6.
Ahoy Comics,
from Ahoy Comics, and I have been reading three Ahoy series, and they've all wrapped up now. And all of them promise to continue. But when is unclear, but I think it's going to be like 6 or 10 months from now.
Wow. Okay.
And so now they've got a new round of books about to come out. And well, I've only seen 2 of them, and neither of them sound that great to me, but I've signed up for one of them just because I've loved everything else I got from Ahoy. The Wrong Earth, highly recommended for all hardcore Batman fans, basically.
Oh, okay.
Because it plays totally with Batman 66 versus Frank Miller's Batman. Is what it really is.
Oh, cool.
And switch the main characters to the different universes. And and at the end of this one, it's quite the cliffhanger. So that's part of my concern about the long wait, because now they've added in, a spoiler. So maybe I won't spoil it, because I want a lot of people to go out and read this trade. But they've added in a new element on the last page.
Oh, wow.
Which makes it very interesting.
Sure.
But I really loved reading this book, and so there's not much new to add without spoiling that. The ending part is the only spoiler. It is interesting how the morality, which was so clear between the 2 different versions of Dragonfly Man, between Batman, 2 different versions of Batman, has now started to gray between them as they've spent more time in each other's worlds.
Their environment is influencing them, huh?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. And a big cool thing, I think maybe mostly happened 2 issues ago, but continues on, is the Harley Quinn-like character is turning out to be much smarter than you thought. The Harley Quinn-like character in the Batman 66 kind of world, much smarter and more compelling as a interesting human being. So I really like that character. She's called Number 2. The Joker's called Number 1. And each of his henchmen has a different number. So Harley Quinn is Number 2. And it is kind of amazing how close they hew to the mythology of Batman. I assume they just figure DC Comics in this day and age where everyone redoes everyone's heroes won't sue, but they would have a good case.
I'll have to pick up the trade of that, because that sounds fun.
Yeah. So like, here's a bunch of the villains from the Nice universe where they don't actually kill anyone or anything. There's Granny Oakley, El Torador, the Queen of Crime, and I forgot the name of the chef character who's naming all the others.
Nice.
But yeah, so it's nice to know this continued to be good to the end.
Cool.
And Ahoy remains. I did put recently the Edgar Allan Poe Snifter of Terror thing on my pull, but I haven't got any issues yet. I don't know how many that has left to go.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weren't you? Were you going to get that too?
Yeah, I've gotten. I missed issue number 1, but I've gotten every issue since then. So.
And has that also been good?
Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, it's basically it's an
Short
anthology
stories,
book.
right?
Yeah. So it's little short, stories. Some of them are direct retellings of Edgar Allan Poe stuff, and some of it is, if kind of in the vein of if Edgar Allan Poe was going to tell a story about some modern something or other, or Edgar Allan Poe is the character in the story, kind of a thing, is what most of that stuff tends to be. And they're just fun. They're fun little short things. None of them are none of the stories are long enough to be tedious. So even if it's one that's maybe not as good, you're through with it in time to then get on to the next whatever thing it's going to be, kind of a deal. So it's been fun.
Yeah. So do you think you're going to order any of their newer books that are coming out like in April or whenever?
Well, I plan on checking them out. For sure. I mean, when you say that the next wave of stuff doesn't sound as interesting, it makes me wonder if they signed these more named talented people up for this first wave, and then those people all went on to do other stuff. So are we going to get them back? Kind of a deal. I don't know.
Or do they just not sound interesting to me, but they'll turn out to be interesting?
Right. So I'm going to check them out. I mean, like I said, I knew that
I forget the name. It was like Bronze Age Boogie.
Right.
And the other one was like World of Nerds or something like that.
Yeah, see that, and that title alone.
The World of Nerds is the one I'm going to get the Bronze Age Boogie, but the World of Nerds is some nerds who come from the 80s or the 70s into the present and discover that our world is now a world of nerds. They're no longer the losers. I don't see what you can do with that.
Yes, that doesn't. I guess as somebody who was tortured with being a nerd, I get apprehensive about any kind of story along those lines. But the reason I didn't jump on these books is I knew they were kind of coming, because I talked with Eric from Longbox Review about them well in advance, and then somehow in the way I order my comics, I kind of wasn't paying attention to that small press until kind of after the fact this stuff had gotten rolling. Right. And I was comfortable with jumping on to the Edgar Allan Poe book because I knew it was an anthology, and I knew I wouldn't be missing. I knew I wouldn't be missing some key part of a story by jumping onto it after issue 1.
And all the others are continuous stories. They're not ones you could jump into that easily. Right,
for sure.
Comic Core, who I guess had them on their show, said something that I know all the creators are on for the run because it was their money that they invested to make the books. The only offer back that was Grant Morrison. So I guess maybe people had to take a financial risk to do these books.
Oh,
and maybe that's why they won't be back for another half a year or a year.
Sure,
because they're waiting to see how the trades do. And
to get some money on it.
And I'm guessing from all the buzz that they're probably more successful than people thought they would be. So hopefully all those creators are getting a nice payday.
Well, and then hopefully their trades sell well, because I know that's when the real money starts coming in, when the trade starts coming out. So cool.
But who owns the copyrights here? I'm not sure. That's the small print is hard to read quickly.
Right.
But it's definitely one of the more exciting companies.
Cool.
And as you know, but for anybody who doesn't know, they give you a lot of material for your $4. It's not like they're a chunkier comic with a lot of back matter and extra comic strips and stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Books that I really enjoyed that I picked up.
I've never even heard of that one.
These Savage Shores. This is issue number 3. This book is excellent. I think there's 1 or 2 more issues and it's done. But each issue is extra thick. They're a bigger issue. So this is set in the... Oh, what era would this be? I'm drawing blanks on dates. Let me see if there's a date in here to tell you. 1766. So it is set in India. The East India Trading Company plays heavily in this. That was the British company that basically kind of took over the world from a financial standpoint and helped the British Empire expand to do the stuff that it was. This book has vampires in it. This book has ancient elder gods in it. It's just really, really intriguing. So the story starts out as kind of a vampire story. There's a vampire in London, and he is a bit garish and a bit reckless and gets himself exposed. A hunter comes after him, almost kills him. So the secretive vampires in the London area put him on a boat and send him off to India. He goes to India, and in India, there is this elder, I'm going to call him an elder god. He's some ancient immortal being that can be quite savage. That's in this part of this retinue of this young prince. His father has died. He's trying to continue in his father's legacy of controlling this area. There is another king who is potentially going to consume this young prince's land, but is also picking a fight with the British at the same time. So he's not wanting to fight a fight on both, on two fronts. So he's trying to get the prince to now be his friend. The prince is like, no, I'm having nothing to do with it. You kind of drove my father to death, so I'm certainly not going to be your friend now. Good luck with your fight with the British, kind of a thing. The vampire hunter chasing the vampire has come to India to try and find this vampire. The vampire gets wiped out pretty quickly when he comes to India. He goes to India. He's out riding around. He finds this beautiful woman that he fully plans to, vampirically take advantage of. Unfortunately, that woman is like the girlfriend of this ancient beast who basically rips his head off and sends him back to his camp with his head in his hands, and vanquishes this vampire. The vampires from England are now upset because their vampire has been killed. So they are off to see what has happened. So there's a lot. It's hard to pigeonhole what is this book. But because it's got so many different elements going on in it, but it is just gorgeous. The artwork in it is just really, really good. There'll be these scenes of it's almost like an old illustrated story in the way that the watercolors are on it and stuff. This issue doesn't have as much of that kind of scenery, but in the first issues, there's these grand, like if you landed in India, what you could envision a port in India being when it's the Grand Bazaar and that sort of stuff. The way it's just done, it's just the art in it is just really, really good as far as that kind of stuff goes. Like I said, I really like it. There's a lot of different kinds of intrigue going on. This is our ancient immortal guy. He can turn into this powerful creature that's here. They do get engaged in a war. I don't know exactly what all is going on. There's a lot of different elements. I said I just really like it. This is a vault comic, and it just, like I said, I really like the coloring. They shoot him down, they kill him, and now he's clearly is becoming whatever he becomes. That is going to just wreck everything. What I'm assuming in the next issue, because that's the final panel of that. But like I said, I just love the way it's colored. This watercolors, the depth.
You got me drooling, and sadly, Stay Puft says the first issue of these Savage Swords is crazy expensive and hard to get now. Yeah. So I guess jumping on it now, I'll have to wait for trade.
Right, I've really been impressed with a lot of the Vault comics that are coming out. They're really interesting stuff. I did not know any of these creators. Ram V, who I now follow on Twitter, but I don't know what else he's really done. Kumar is the artist. Sujan Kumar. These are all creators that I've never heard of these guys before.
Is it originally with Vault, or could it be like a translation or anything?
No, this is a Vault. This is a Vault book, to the best of my knowledge. It doesn't say it's been printed by anybody else. But it is done. It
very much under the radar. I don't see their comics at comic shops.
Oh,
as you know, I go to many comic shops.
Right. So this is done. Either next issue or the issue after that, it is done. Just a description on the back of this. Let's see here. The stench of war clings in the air as Hyder, the All-Misuriel, comes calling for a levy. Good men and demons alike are set to march, and the as lovers part with the promise of a safe return. But in these troubling times, the promise of the hunt brings the devil himself to the fairway coast. The devil himself are the vampires. So along these savage shores where blood begets blood and dawn light shimmers over a land soaked in betrayal. So it's got that kind of, quasi romantic East India, the kind of, if you were someone who was sitting at home hearing the tales of going to foreign lands and blah, blah, blah kind of thing, it has those kinds of elements to it too and whatnot. I really liked Vault Comics. Vault Comics, it's got that Deep Roots book that I just picked up the trade that Dan Waters wrote that I think is really interesting. I've got another book this week. Wasted Space is a Vault book, which is another book.
Someone else was talking about that. That sounded really good.
This is excellent, and this is now an ongoing. I really like it. It has these great kind of waxing philosophical moments about, if you could talk to God, what would that mean? Sort of thing. It's set in the future in space. You've got all these hucksters who are acting like they have the ear of God, and there's this greater president that's going to destroy the world. The art in it is just kind of bonkers. It's this kind of, I don't know. It's an inky sketched kind of a thing, but I just like the way it looks for this. This has good sci-fi elements to it. It's got some Philip K. Dickness to it. There's some powerful beings that are, manipulating humankind throughout the cosmos. But I really like the book. I can't really. It's hard to explain what all is going on in it, but I really do dig it. It's got a lot of interesting stuff going on. I know the art isn't for everybody. It is kind of a sketchier, kind of a strange stuff, but I don't know. To me, it really works. This is our main cast of characters. This guy Billy here used to have conversations with what he thought was God. This thing would show up and talk to him, and he when he was younger, he would tell people this is what God says to do. He kept telling people to do all this different stuff and vote for these people. And he got this crazy president elected. And then it started some wars and thousands of people died and everybody's miserable now. So everybody pretty much hates him. And he basically now is a drunk, drugged guy who tries to hide and not tell anybody who he is. Spends most of his time being wasted. It's one of the reasons why it's Wasted Space. He hangs out with this guy who is basically a sex bot, but he's also a programmed elite killing machine. Is like his best friend. He is now teamed up with this other girl who can't see God, but she can hear the voice of God, and so she hears. No, she has visions. She has visions of what's going on of supposedly God's plan. What we're finding out in this issue is there's this Omega thing, this giant creature. There's his eyes, who he's like, he is, they're supposed to be furthering mankind. And because they don't want to hurt mankind, he feels like they've coddled them. These higher powers have coddled mankind too much. Instead of mankind growing to be the better thing that it could be, it's stagnated and become kind of this chaotic mess of.
So that goes with the title too, then.
Right. Of them not wanting to progress and become better. They're more like self-serving and obsessed and navel-gazing and not really wanting to move forward. So he wants to move things forward. And this other entity that's kind of like this has been messing with mankind. He's the God that one person sees and the other person hears. And the two of them are in conflict with each other. The one's going, no, we can't do things like this. We have to move them forward. And you've made it become personal. They're worshiping you now instead of moving mankind forward. And so there's this other greater conflict that's going on in it too. So it's cool. I like it. It
sounds amazing.
it's a funky kind of a thing and whatnot. So
it frustrates me. There's all these comic book companies out there, but comic book shops can't afford to order all the comics, so you can't discover them without really doing research or, you know, ordering comics the way you do. But even for you, it must be a little hard to find those. I
still miss it. I mean, because the way the comic ordering for me is set up, there's the big companies. They've kind of got their own pages within pages, easy to browse that, and then all of these little companies, just companies that may only put out one book every 6 months are on this list, and you have to kind of pick your way through that to try and find stuff. You know, Vault's a name now I recognize, so I always go to their page and look to see what's coming out by them. Just kind of like I look for Black Mask to see what Black Mask is doing. So some of these that I've now know are there, I'm catching. But like I missed the Deep Roots as singles. That's why I picked it up in trade. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, there's no doubt about it, kind of a thing.
Even Ahoy, which is a little better publicized, after I heard people talking about it on YouTube, I had to go to like 6 comic books around town to pick up little bits and pieces and then have my comic book store order them after I, you know, read an issue. But it's not easy.
Which it is, I think,
it's
is
like,
kind
how
of
do these companies survive without that kind of off the shelf discovery?
I think they do a lot of their own sales. I mean, they work the internet pretty hard, I think, as some of that is. I mean, I can't imagine as a comic book, whereas I feel like as a reader, this is a new golden age of comics because there's all these companies, all this different stuff coming out, all these different voices. I'm excited about that as a reader. I can't imagine being a retailer, a brick and mortar, because you're right. Every one of those books that sit on their shelf is money that they've spent until they sell it to somebody else. How do you carry all this stuff? I don't know.
And 90% of your books become worth $1 within 3 months.
Right. You know, unless you're someplace where you can establish yourself as being a niche market. Like I'm a store that sells mostly independent stuff. You know, and if you beg me, I'll get a Marvel or DC book to you. But this is my thing, and the people that come to your store, that's what they're into. And you can survive on that. I don't know how you're just a mom and pop shop that tries to cover everything. I don't see how you can do it.
You can't. But even here in Portland, there are several shops that lean. None of them don't do Marvel and DC, but that lean towards the other stuff. Even there, you're not going to find necessarily Vault or Ahoy. You might, or you might find some other company, but you're not going to find them all. So it's really work. And so I just I heard the name Vault, and I probably heard you mention it, but you know, we're always talking about so many comics. I just let Vault go, and I didn't research that.
Well, like I said, some of the stuff that they've been putting out has been really, it's been really good. And initially Wasted Space was going to be, you know, not an ongoing, but it has now been changed to an ongoing. So it's going to be a, you know, hopefully we'll get hopefully being an ongoing means there's story there. They're not going to stretch out, but they have more to say, and now they can say the more that they wanted to say. So I'm excited for that. But I know the Savage Shores, it's going to be done. It'll be I don't think
I'll have to remember to look for the trade on that. And maybe I'll try to track down back issues of that Wasted Space.
Cool.
Well, you have more indies than I do, probably. I only have a few left. You want to talk about some others of yours? Or?
So I have 3 other books. I'll quickly mention
I guess
LaGuardia.
I have 3 other books too. But
I'll quickly mention LaGuardia.
I'm very curious about that one. I didn't get it, and I'm wondering if I made a mistake.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
So it's 4 issues. This is number 3 of 4. It felt like that maybe that should have been more than that, just to have something else to say. It's one of the Karen Berger books, which when I picked it up, I didn't realize initially that that's what it was. I just thought, oh, that sounds like something different. You know, it's going to have some commentary on immigration and here in America anyway, with all the immigration type stuff we got going on. Somebody's going to have something to say about it. They're going to use aliens as part of that, you know, which is cheap in one way, but okay, cool.
And the writer is I think a novelist or something.
I believe so.
Yeah. I think that's why I didn't jump on it.
Right. So we're at issue 3, the end of issue 3, and I don't think there's much to say. So it's this woman, her name is Future. This is all set sometime in the future. Aliens, actual space aliens, do come to Earth. Some people are not excited about that. They get treated just like, immigrants coming into the country that you don't really want in the country. She is African American. She's living in Nigeria. There's lots of aliens. There's lots of aliens coming into Nigeria because for a while it was like an open port for aliens to come to Nigeria. And then once they get to Nigeria, then they try to slip into other countries around the world, kind of thing. She is engaged to a guy named Citizen. People have really weird names in the future. And she becomes pregnant. And for some reason, she rushes off. She rushes out of the country and she goes to New York. She goes to the LaGuardia Airport, which in modern times in America, that's kind of, if you're coming into the country, flying into the country as an immigrant, it's one of the major places. Instead of traveling past Ellis Island, you now come into LaGuardia. Right. She comes to LaGuardia. She has a plant with her. The plant is actually an alien. She sneaks the plant in. We find out that her pregnancy has been, in this issue, we find out her pregnancy has been mixed, diluted, I don't know what you would call it, with alien DNA. So her baby is potentially going to be alien in some sense. I don't know. There's protests. Her mother is a lawyer that spends all of her time in LaGuardia fighting for alien rights. It's got the elements to be something, but there's no story. There's nothing here other than she's pregnant, and in this issue, she has her baby. And next issue, she's going to have a baby, and it's done. The story's done. There's the elements to tell something, but they're not really telling us anything. So I was just kind of disappointed with it.
And you would think Karen Berger would recognize that and
right
for a rewrite.
right. So if this was an ongoing, there's 3 issues. There's not enough happened to really keep me interested. I can't imagine what they're going to do with issue 4. I don't know. I don't know if they're hoping with issue 4 that there's enough people reading it that that they want to move forward with it. That they could do more issues of it, of some other story. I don't know if there is, unless the next issue just blows my mind in some way. I won't be getting it.
I noticed with another Berger book, She Could Fly, they're now doing another miniseries. So maybe that's how Berger books will work. If something succeeds, then they'll do a second miniseries. Right.
Whereas I really like She Could Fly. That was a good Berger book.
Right. Yeah, I liked it too. Yeah. For a minute, I was thinking, well, maybe I should just order every Berger book. But this confirms my feeling that
I originally, when this was first announced that she was going to be doing this stuff, that's kind of what I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to get everything that Karen produces and see what's what. I've actually skipped some, and I'm kind of like, there's an Oliver Twist.
Yeah, I skipped that one.
To me, that didn't interest me at all. I'm just, surprisingly, I'm not as excited by these books as like I am the Black Crown stuff, which of course is the other big Vertigo editor, Shelley Bond stuff. Now, but I also have to admit, I think that Shelley Bond's personal aesthetic matches more mine, and so it's easy for me to kind of
maybe closer to your age.
Yeah, right. Her Bowie obsessions and stuff like that all kind of match up with my own personal tastes too. So her stuff, I end up getting everything of that just because I.
Have you continued with The Lodger? Did that get better after issue 1? Or I'm assuming
yes.
Other people agreed with me about it.
Yeah, more of the elements that I was expecting are starting to show up in it. Stray Bullets. I hate now that I said, hey, if you are afraid to touch Stray Bullets, get on this because it'll be that. It's not. It's not. Stray Bullets is still superior in so many ways, kind of thing. It has gotten better because the elements are starting to kind of come together to why they're telling the story in the way they are and who the people are. But still not the best work.
Right. Sorry, I just free associated from
no,
Burger
that's
Book
cool. That's cool.
to that book.
No, what you got?
Well, Self-Made was one of those science fiction books that I kind of blindly put on my pull because I figured I wouldn't see it otherwise. And I wasn't so happy with issue 1, but we're on issue 3 now. And it's kind of a non-player type story. Have you read Non-Player? The 2 issues that ever came out.
Yes. Oh, man.
But basically about a video game character that's coming to life in a sense. But it involves interesting corporate shenanigans with the programmer who created the character and her rivals at the company and stuff. And it's very interesting that way. And the interiors of the video games are fun enough. Not super original or anything, but so in this issue, we're in a sort of zombie apocalypse kind of video game, cool. But there's lots of other interesting stuff going on within the video game. And so and the plot's moving along quite quickly. So some big things happen at the end of issue 3, and I'm curious to see where that goes and how much of a long, what their plan is at this point. It's overall a good package, even though, I don't love the art and it started off a little bit weak, but anyway, so I'm enjoying Self-Made. I think one of my favorite things is our hero. Well, there's 2 heroes, I suppose, the fictional character and then the programmer who created her. And the programmer who created her is is not able to do people well in the real life. So that's her corporate problem is she doesn't have any allies at the corporation where she works because she's not a people person. And I like the way they portray that. I mean, it could be just a cliche, but they portray it in a way that is fairly subtle and works well for me.
Okay.
But in the first issue of Self-Made, I didn't see all that. Stave Puff mentions he only read the first issue of Self-Made.
Right.
So that's one to keep an eye on as it progresses towards trades. It might end up being a good one.
Cool. One of my books, it is Shadow Roads. This is issue number 6. This would be, I think, the starting of the next arc of the book.
Is this a Cullen Bunn one?
Yes, this is a spin out. This is a spin-off of it's a spin-off of the Six Gun. So it has some characters that were actually in the Six Gun in this, and then it has introduced a larger cast of other characters, dealing in the same, not with the Six Guns, but dealing in the same world. And it still has some of the elements. It has the people who live on the crossroads and some of that stuff. This has a character in it who was in a few issues of the Six Gun. She was an opera singer, and she birthed a nasty demon type thing, and then basically became a hollow shell. They recaptured her soul, and she is basically she's not controlled, but she's kind of in a sense, a slave to the powers of order. And when I say powers of order, that's not an organization. That's like the elementals that would represent order have basically put her in a position where she can do their bidding, in a sense, go and take care. So this story is set right after the Six Guns have been used for their ultimate thing. I mean, anybody who hasn't read Six Gun, I don't want to spoil what that is.
Right. I haven't finished it.
Right. So
I'm waiting for the hardbacks.
So okay. So this starts right after that's all, that whatever at the end of the book happens. This is right after that kind of a thing. So that's got all kind of the same sorts of elements that are going on in it. We've got a few different characters. We got 3 different groups. We got this opera singer and her stuff that she has going on, where she's kind of this adventurer that's going out and trying to take care of powerful magical things that are still happening that need to be resolved or hidden away so dumb people don't get a hold of them and do damage, kind of a thing. Another group is this young Native American who has basically grown up in England, completely separated from anything that has to do with being a Native American, but he has been transported back to the West. He has been acquainted now with the tribe that his father comes from. We found out that his father was a powerful shaman warrior type person, and he has some of the magical blood through him. So he's trying to figure out, basically having been brought up as a proper British person, you're trying to wrap his head around, chanting and praying and, all the stuff that goes along with that, the trimmings there. And then we have another group that is a young girl who is like a really good shootist. She's very good at shooting things, and that's what she likes to do. She had the first arc, she had been like demon bait. She survives that. She's hanging out with an old guy who has the ability to see ghosts, and he can ask ghost questions, and he can follow them to get answers of stuff. And they are teamed up with I think they're called the Black Marshals. They are a secret U.S. Secret Service who follow the Black Constitution, which is this kind of secret secondary constitution that deals with magical stuff that they don't want people to know about. So they've teamed up with them, and they're going on an adventure too. And these people's paths kind of cross each other. The book has been drawn. It's written by Cullen Bunn and Brian Hurt. Brian Hurt was the artist for the Six Gun stuff. It has been written by them, and the first 5 issues was drawn by a guy who draws in the same style as Brian Hurt, but doesn't look exactly like Brian Hurt. This issue is actually drawn by Brian Hurt. I didn't realize that. I opened it up, and like the second panel, I'm like, wow, this guy's drawn exactly like Brian Hurt now. And I go to look, and this issue is actually written and drawn by Brian Hurt, and the story is credited Cullen Bunn, Brian Hurt. So colorist on this is Zambuno, which is the guy who's been coloring the book all along, just for your sake, Damien, there.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. I thought maybe with Brian drawing it, that they would use Crabtree or something.
Right. I know that they're buddies, but I suppose they might want the consistency of the colorist to stay on.
Right. But I love this world. I love the setting. So I'm, anything that's in this setting, I'm interested in. I like the characters. I like a magical Western. I like Westerns. I like magic. You put the two together, and I have a lot of fun with that. So I'm excited to see what they do with it. It's been fun.
Yeah, I only just yesterday I was looking through previews and saw that the trade of this is coming out, and it's like I haven't heard about this. I somehow missed it. Right.
So I'm hoping it's successful. I'm hoping that the people who are reading Six Gun are picking it up too.
Yeah.
So it doesn't like stall out like The Damned or some of the other books.
Somehow Oni is not so great at marketing. They have these great books, but they don't always market them well.
Well, it just seems to me like the only thing they market is the stuff that's easy to market, like Rick and Morty. Things that are other commercial tie-ins that they somehow get, which is weird to me. They're such a small country. I mean, it's such a small company to get some of the licensings for some of the stuff they get licensed for. Always surprised me. But.
Well, and they put out good product, but they don't get it in front of your eyes. And maybe I saw ads for Shadow Roads and didn't know it was connected to Six Gun, or
right.
I'm not sure. I mean, I feel very happy that I accidentally found Kaiju Max and have read that from the beginning.
Right.
Because that's like a sleeper hit for them too now, I think.
Yeah. That's sure. What else you got?
A new Aftershock book called Oberon.
I said I didn't pick that up. How is it?
It's good. Now, I am currently reading a Boom book called Sparrowhawk about a girl who goes into the land of the fairy and has all kinds of moral conundrums as she gains magic powers. And this is about a girl who is somehow related by fairy and is being raised by parents who may not really be her parents. And now the ex-king of the fairies, Oberon, wants to get a hold of her to use her to get his throne back. And she doesn't know who to trust. Anyway, it has a bit of a similar vibe to Sparrowhawk, which is the better comic. It's only a 6-issue comic, and it'll be out in trade probably in a few months because there's only one more issue to go.
Right.
But so I enjoyed this, but I couldn't help comparing it to Sparrowhawk.
Sure.
And Sparrowhawk just has better art, and it's hard to tell on the writing. But this is well written, and it has those almost familiar story engines of unfolding mysteries. So you have by the middle of the book, you have one mystery unfolding, and then by the end of this first issue, you already think, well, it may not even be the way it unfolded in the middle of the book. There may be another layer to this.
Sure.
So I am definitely curious and want to read more. So for people who are in the mood for kind of a fantasy book involving the idea of fairy, not the Tinkerbell fairies, but the evil magical world of fairies that's just parallel to ours, I think it's a good one. But whether it's a great one or not, I can't tell.
Right.
I do kind of feel like Aftershock, compared to some of the other indie comics, doesn't give you as much. Like there's never any back matter, and it's only really 20 pages of story rather than 22. Or, like I was noticing, I can't remember if it was a number of the Image books are 24 or 26 pages of story. Anyway, it's a good one. It's still better than a Marvel book. So
right.
Really been complaining.
Right.
In fact, as a Marvel, the character in the girl character in the story reminds me a little bit of Moon Girl, the genius character in one of my favorite Marvel comics. You have anything else left?
I have one book. More. Yeah, I have one more. So
The Dreaming. How's that going?
The Dreaming, issue number 6. I continue to really love this book. The art, the Bliss Everly art is just beautiful. Matt Lopes coloring it just makes it a gorgeous book. I still think it really fits into the Sandman universe really well, because it really they're in the Dreaming. It has a lot of that cast of characters and whatnot. In this issue, the Dreaming is about to be destroyed, or at least it's about to be completely controlled by a really, really awful person. Dora here, our character who seems to be able to walk between realms. She's the one character who can just go wherever she pleases and do as she pleases. Does a lot of soul searching in this issue, and discovers some stuff about herself, and has some great character developments in this. And I like the way that's played out. They battle against some stuff, and a new entity by the end of the issue, a new entity has been born. A new Endless potentially has been born. And as I'm reading, I'm thinking, oh, is it going to be a new version of the Dream? Because Dream has walked off again, kind of gone rogue, gone derelict from its duties of the realm, which seems to be a problem for Dream quite a bit. But and I'm like, is this going to be a new one? Did something happen to the old one? Kind of thing. And no, it's its own thing, and what it is going to be really intriguing, because it's potentially an AI. It thinks it's an AI. It's like, it goes, I am an AI, I think, and I think I'm insane. So I have no idea. I mean, and it's totally crazy what it looks like. It's got like a cute little Japanese drawing face. It's got weird moth wings, and it's just completely strange sort of a creature. Yeah.
Did they give it a name? Like there was death and delusion.
Right.
So everything begins with a name.
I don't believe this one has one yet, as it's yeah, it basically I think I'm an artificial intelligence. I'm afraid I've accidentally assumed control of this realm, and it's entirely likely that I am insane. And that's what it looks like.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. So, what does that mean? I don't know. It'll be Chris, but like I said, the art in this book is just absolutely gorgeous. So what I'm also really interested in is next issue. Here's where everything's going really bad. Potentially Cain is dead. So things have gone totally awry in the book. Cain is getting ready to sacrifice Abel again, as he always does, to this new entity, maybe because he's thinking this might be the power thing. And right as he's about ready to do it, Abel pulls out a fork and goes, I'm not the same either. And he stabs Kane in the jugular, and
Oh, I love
Kane
that.
bleeds. Kane bleeds out and dies at the end of it, and it looks like he's dead. So don't know how that's gonna play out, but it looks like next issue is going to be an issue that has to do with Morpheus walking the waking world and doing whatever Morpheus is doing. So I'm curious to see what adventure we get into there. Looking forward to seeing what comes next with this Dora character, because she's a really intriguing character too. I like her a lot. But Cy Spurrier, or Simon as he's going by now, Simon Spurrier, just really does a really good job of writing this to where it really does just feel, to me, it really just feels like it could be game and written. It could just be naturally part of the Sandman world.
Right.
It just really, really works well.
So you're reading all of the Sandman universe?
Every one of them. Yep.
Yeah. And do you feel are there interconnections? Do you feel like you get more by reading them all rather than just one or two of them?
No. Now, see, the House of Whispers, which I think is the weakest, kind of messed up one of them.
Right.
The House of Whispers is actually crashed into the dreaming. It's actually setting in the dreaming right now. It wasn't in this issue. It's been shown in the background of issues of this, and certainly in that book, they are setting the dreaming, trying to figure out how to get the hell out of the dreaming, because that's not where they belong. So they're interconnected in that way, but you would not need to read one to read any of the others, sort of a thing. Nothing about the Lucifer book has commingled in any way or shape or form with this, or vice versa, other than there was an infernal being in one issue that was kind of, dating's too strong of a word with this Dora character. I mean, they would go and find each other and have a little bit of fun, a little bit of adult fun occasionally. And he tried walking into the dreaming realm without being announced, which caused problems. But that's still no connection to the Lucifer book. So the books are not connected to each other, only in the sense that I don't know about the Whispers, the House of Whispers one, but Lucifer obviously was a character that was in the Sandman universe originally.
Yeah.
That's the only connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of maybe, I got the first issue of The Dreaming from a dollar bin, and I'm thinking of maybe trying to pick up all those issues rather than trade waiting. Because I feel like those two, Lucifer and The Dreaming, are probably all I want to read.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would not recommend the House of Whispers to anybody. I really wouldn't. I mean, it's just not.
Did you say Dan? I thought I saw you in a video saying Dan Waters has now jumped on board to help out with it, or
well, I don't know.
Or is he taking over?
I don't know. And now I'm curious to see.
Because then I thought, well, maybe I should start up if Dan Waters is going to.
So last issue, his name suddenly appeared on the book, and then this week's comics, his name's on the book again. So I read the book a little closer, going, I wonder if I'm going to be able to tell.
Right.
And there were parts of the last issue that were, I don't know, structurally is the word I want to use, but just felt more lucid. It felt more structured. And I don't know if that's his part in it. I have no idea.
Right.
I don't know if the person who's on the book, because I'm drawing a blank right now, what their name is.
Nalo Hopkinson.
Right. If she's struggling to kind of keep it together, and so they brought him in because maybe
he has more experience actually writing comics than she does.
Right. So I don't know if that's the case. So he's helping along. I mean, I'm thinking, is that just what an editor does? So I don't know. I mean, I am curious. I mean, if he takes over the book, I'm more curious about the book, because I'm really enjoying his Lucifer anyway a lot, and the bits and pieces of Deep Roots that I've read, I've liked. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know, because he wasn't originally on the book. Originally, he was not on that book, but he's become part of it. So I don't know if he's just helping out, or what. I don't know what the story is there. So,
yeah, that's interesting.
So, what's your last book?
My last book. Sorry, I almost forgot I had a last book. Is Curse Words, which is
how's that going?
I guess, of their fourth arc. And I was thinking about dropping Curse Words because while I've loved it, it kind of feels like it was done all it could do. But this issue last issue of the Arc Manor introduces some new things that suddenly make me think, oh, maybe I will continue for another.
So they're writing it smartly, huh? They're dropping that.
They kind of let it drag a little bit, though. They were a bit off their game for a few issues, I think, in terms of the pace. But this character on the cover, who's a koala, is named Margaret, and she is probably the daughter of the two other main characters, but they don't know it, and she just discovered it. And she's she can shape change to other animals with help from the wizards. And she's always been a fun character, but a little underused. And now she's taking on a major role, and it looks like behind the scenes she was playing a major role all along in all kinds of things.
Interesting.
With the world they call the whole world, HOLE, is kind of like hell, where the characters come from. I mean, it's not specifically hell, but it's a hell world. And it looks like she has been a player behind the scenes in trying to undermine that hell world. So I'm very interested now to see where this goes. And I think between arcs, there's going to be their spring special. They did a summer special, which was drawn by Mike Norton and hinted at her birth. So I think the next special is going to be about when she is born and give us some of the backstory there.
Is Mike Norton doing that special too?
Yes. So he did both specials. Cool. And he seems to do a pretty good job of, I think he did the last special. No, I'm not sure. It was someone like Mike Norton. Anyway, whoever did the last special seems to do a good job of being close enough to Ryan Brown's art style and kind of taking on Ryan Brown's layout style more.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was just getting a little stale with the same characters kind of doing similar things over and over again. So I kind of hope they maybe just have one or two arcs left and we'll end it on a high note rather than repeat it endlessly. I don't know what sales are like on it either. Here's a great double page spread.
Nice.
So anyway, yeah, I'm enjoying that too. So it was last week was a good week for comics, I'd say, for me. Other than, I guess, Gunhawks was a bit of a Gunhawks and Conan were both weaker ones.
Right. And most of my comics are good. It just wasn't a good DC. This wasn't a good DC week for me, which is strange because usually there's always something in there that I like, but it wasn't a good DC week for me.
Well, you enjoyed Green Lantern somewhat, but were confused at the same time.
Yeah, It was the silver lining of the DC stuff. Now,
I suppose Die was the best book of all of them, if off the top of my head.
Yeah.
On this particular week.
Yeah, for me, Die. I really enjoyed Die. Savage Shores, Wasted Space, The Dreaming. Those are the big books. Hulk, I really enjoyed, despite, like I said, my questioning. Did it actually, tell us anything when it got to the end of that or not? So, yeah.
And surprisingly, I think Man and Superman would have come in second after Die for me.
Cool, because I know a lot of people kind of question after you bought it. It was like, man, I spent how much on this?
Yeah, I think that was a problem.
Right. So I'm glad it was satisfying.
If it was a really lame waste of time, it's also scary picking up a book that's nearly 100 pages long if it's not any good. I think for both you and I at our age level, it's not so much money as time that's the biggest concern.
Exactly. That's for sure. It almost always is that. It's like, that's why I've been discussing here lately about the fact that I'm going to be dropping some books, not because they're bad per se, but they aren't holding my attention enough. And with my more limited time, I don't have time to read a bunch of mediocre books. So I have to kind of start being a little more choosy about what I'm getting and what I'm not. So, yeah.
I don't know if there's any particular indie news.
No, no like major announcements about this book is coming out or, whatever.
Yeah.
Not that I can think of.
It just seems like there's just constantly more and more publishers out there, but
right.
Nothing in particular, but have you heard of TKO? I guess it's
Yes.
somewhat old news.
Yes, TKO. They're kind of they don't do direct market.
Well, they don't. Here's
They
the
don't
trick.
do Diamond.
They don't do Diamond, but comic stores can order directly through them. But my comic book store just didn't feel like doing it,
Right.
which bummed me out because I could have gotten them at a discount.
Right. So you can read the first issues of some of their books online digitally for free. Maybe not in a friendly format, but you can read them digitally. And then you can get them in a trade format.
A trade or in one of these boxes. So I ordered them through Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, through Amazon even. Oh, cool.
Yeah. And this is going to irritate you because they're slightly oversized.
Yeah, but they come in a box. If I can keep them in the box, that doesn't bother
you have to keep them in the box. You can't keep them in your comic book box.
Right.
And I haven't finished reading either of the two I got yet.
So you got which ones?
I got Goodnight Paradise, which is the homeless murder mystery written by Joshua Dysart.
That's the one I want because it's Alberto Ponticelli's doing the art.
But the art doesn't look like I remember Ponticelli's art.
And that's what I thought too, because I looked at the
You looked at the digital?
I looked at some of the digital stuff and I went, oh, that doesn't look right.
Yeah. And the other one, I don't have it nearby. It's not Professor Fang, something Fang. It's like a play on the Yellow Claw.
Yeah, I do remember seeing that one too.
And it's by an Asian person, so it's not intentionally racist against Asians. It's playing on that historical cliche. And I've read the first issue of that and it seemed quite fun. It seemed like a almost Indiana Jones-ish thing.
Cool.
With good art and color. So if you could get your shop can get these at 50% off. So they could have given me my 25% discount, but he just didn't want to do it. But otherwise, then I went to their website and you have to pay postage plus the full price.
Right.
But if you order it from Amazon, you don't have to pay the postage. Right.
Okay.
But it still comes shipped directly from TKO through Amazon.
Interesting. So what do you think of the format? Buying the whole book like that, and you can buy it like in floppies if you're like me. I like to be able to lay my comics out.
I think they're worth getting in the non-floppy. I'm getting the floppy version, not the. It costs less to get them in the paperback trade, but they definitely are full bleed, so you would lose something.
Right.
I'd say I thought the box they came in would feel more sturdy. It's made out of kind of thin cardboard. I thought it would be more like your usual when you get a boxed set of something. It's kind of harder cardboard.
Right.
So that's my only disappointment so far, but I haven't read them all the way through. So I'll put out reviews of them when I do.
Cool. Because I was just curious in general about the format, because I thought it was really interesting that there was all these kind of ways that you could consume it. I think to some degree that's smart to go, hey, if you're a trade person, you can get a trade. If you're a floppy person, you can get floppies. If you're a digital person, we'll sell it to you digital. And I just kind of like, that's bold. Right. And you know, and stuff. I mean, part of me, you know, I like monthly comics, and clearly that's not a monthly comic. It's all done and it's there.
That's part of why I haven't read them yet, is because like trades, I kind of set them aside and say, well, when I have a bigger chunk of time.
And I've got
even though they're in individual issues, I got 6 at once.
Right.
And they're long issues. They're like 24 or 30 pages a piece. So it's chunky. It's good that way.
Yeah.
And I think in their second wave, they're going to have a Jeff Lemire book. So I'm definitely going to get that.
Cool.
I wonder if they'll eventually have to break down and go through Diamond. So I guess one of their founders is some kind of internet, you know, money person,
right?
Who thinks they can, you know,
circumvent that, right?
What's the word they love to use in the Silicon Valley? Disrupt. They think they can disrupt the system,
right?
But I bet they'll eventually have to say, okay, if we really want to reach a wider audience, we have to go through Diamond.
It depends on. I mean, disrupting depends on who they have for creators continuing on these books, right?
Yeah.
So well, if it's like a lot of these stuff, if it's like Ahoy, for instance, you get some big name people to start out with, and then you don't have big name people continuing to come in.
Yeah, that's true. But if it sells well, then maybe people like Jeff Lemire will continue with them.
Right. Yeah,
But it is interesting because in a podcast interview, they mentioned that the creators do not keep the copyright.
Oh,
And they clearly want to make money from movie sales and things like that, I think.
right.
Because so one founder is some kind of internet millionaire, and the other one is a pretty well-known, showrunner / movie TV writer.
Okay.
That's the Asian fellow with
Okay.
a name I can't pronounce.
Hmm.
But so my impression is they give you a really good deal. They cut you in on royalties and everything, but they want the ownership. They want the control.
Sure.
So it's on one of the podcasts that I listen to comes from Publishers Weekly, and they kind of joked that that there's lots of millionaires out there that are happy, that will throw money at you if you want to start a comic book company. So maybe there's kind of a geeky prestige to owning your own comic book company.
Well, I can get behind that. So I have to admit, if I won one of those ridiculous
if you
lotteries,
made 500 million off of your stock options on
didn't happen this year.
Company, then you might say, I'll throw a few million at a comic book company and see what happens.
Sure, it's a tax write-off somehow, right?
Yeah, but also you can, at parties with your friends, say,
right,
I own a comic book company.
That would impress me. So I guess whatever. That's cool. Why? Like I said, I thought it was an interesting format, and if it's easily available on Amazon, you probably don't need Diamond.
Well, yeah. The thing for me was I was hoping for a discount.
Sure.
And I think what my shop was thinking is, like, if they special order something for me, they usually get a few extra copies to see if other people will buy it. And they didn't want to do that with this unknown thing to them.
Right.
But yeah, maybe other comic shops will go ahead and order through them.
Okay.
So that's not really, it's old news because this has been around a month or two now.
Sure.
But I think it's interesting to see what will happen with it.
It is. It definitely is. Yeah. Cool. Alrighty. It is mighty late. Yeah. As Ryan C just informed us that we're still up this late.
Right.
We started late, but we've been going a long time. And
you mentioned you often have to wake up at 3 o'clock for work. So to you, this is like almost work time to go to work again.
It is. It is. I'm hitting my second win possibly, but I'm gonna lose my voice here pretty soon. So
I hope you get Sunday off.
Yes. Well, knock on wood, as long as everything's fine, I will. But who knows? Anyway, thanks for coming on and
a great pleasure. This was a very fun one.
And talking comics with me, always have a good time. And until whenever the next one is, thank you guys for all you guys that came on and commented and watched the show along. Always appreciated anybody who comments after the fact. That's always cool too. Maybe I'll even
great comments.
Maybe I'll even reply back to those comments. At any rate, thank you again, Damien, and everybody out there. Thanks for watching. Until next time, have a good one.
Good night.